Kelly Dower. Oh, okay.
National anthem, and then the other two songs, and then him? Yeah, right.
You'll do your thing, and then we'll do the pledge.
Because we're singing the national anthem, it's like, it's worried about, how does it go? I mean, yeah. Are we worried about that?
Can you not do that? You have to hear the
Calls for that, but I don't know. It's really far.
We don't know.
Nobody knows what it is. I'll do whatever.
I'm sort of inclined to forego formalities at this point.
Sure, come. We'll do whatever else we can.
So if he hasn't worked in
So do you want us to sing that then or after you get there?
and then maybe I ask somebody else.
Yeah, whatever you want.
All right.
Sorry.
I'm trying to make sure I don't overdo it. I'm actually trying to get back with you guys to see what I do.
Spell her name. She'll
I'll sit here then.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. I'd like to bring this meeting to order. As you probably know, we meet for closed session, but we took no action. And I'm reconvening open session. And normally we have a young lad or lady from elementary school give us our Pledge of Allegiance. And he seems to be late in traffic, our Pledge of Allegiance student. So what I'd like is it's very nice, the Arlington High School Choir to perhaps do a couple of their selections first. We're going to wait and see if Matthew Nakafuji comes. If he doesn't, we'll do our national anthem and we'll proceed, okay? So now I'm going to introduce Kelly Dower, who will introduce the choir.
Good evening, school board and all present today. This is the Arlington High School Chamber Singers, and we're going to sing a couple of Negro spirituals for you tonight in honor of African American History Month. All right?
Here, rocking in the land, and ringing them bells. I know, oh my Lord, there's rocking in the land, and ringing them bells. I know, oh my Lord, there's rocking in the land, rocking in the land, and ringing them bells. I hear rocking in the land, rocking in the land, and ringing them bells. I know, oh, my Lord, there's rocking in the land, rocking in the land, and ringing them bells. I know, oh, Jerusalem, rocking in the land, rocking in the land, and ringing them bells. Rocking Jerusalem, rocking Jerusalem, rocking Jerusalem, and ringing them bells.
Our next piece is called Ain't Got Time to Die, and it's being led tonight by Mr. Stephen Rondoloni, a junior.
Lord, I keep so busy praising my Jesus. Keep so busy praising my Jesus. Keep so busy praising my Jesus. Ain't got time to die. When I'm healing the sick, I'm praising my Jesus. When I'm healing the sick, I'm praising my Jesus. When I'm healing the sick, I'm praising my Jesus. Ain't got time to die. 'Cause it takes all of my time to praise my Jesus. All of my time to praise my Lord. If I don't praise him, the rock's going to cry out. Glory and honor, glory and honor. Ain't got time to die. Keep so busy working for the kingdom. Keep so busy working for the kingdom. Ain't got time to die. When I'm feeding the poor, I'm working for the kingdom. When I'm feeding the poor, I'm working for the kingdom. Feeding the poor, I'm working for the kingdom. Ain't got time to die. 'Cause it takes all of my time to praise my Jesus. All of my time to praise my Lord. If I don't praise him, the rock's going to cry out. Glory and honor, glory and honor. Ain't got time to die. I'm so busy serving my master. Keep so busy serving my master. Keep so busy serving my master. Ain't got time to die. When I'm giving my all, I'm serving my master. When I'm giving my all, I'm serving my master. When I'm giving my all, I'm serving my master. Ain't got time to die. 'Cause it takes all of my time to praise my Jesus, all of my time to praise my Lord. If I don't praise him, the rock's going to cry out, glory and honor, glory and honor. Ain't got time to die now, won't you get out of my way? Let me praise my Jesus, out of my way, let me praise my Lord. If I don't praise him, the rock's going to cry out, glory and honor, glory and honor. Ain't got time to die.
Wonderful. Would Kelly Dower still stand up? Do we have Matthew yet? No? Kelly, I'm putting you on the spot. Would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I think I remember it.
Okay.
Please stand. I'm going to be doing that then. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remain standing, please, for the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, and the home of the brave, home of the
Let's give the students of Arlington one more hand, please. When Matthew comes, if he comes, we will... Oh, is he here? Oh, please have him come and step up. I know. Mr. Quaylar, would you bring Matthew up front? Matthew, you just missed the pledge, but I can't miss this opportunity to tell the audience about you. So if you would just wait just a minute. Rivera Elementary School is proud to have Matthew Nakafuji representing Rivera and leading the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, which he just missed by this much. Matthew, a sixth grader, is described as a diligent, kind, and high-achieving scholar. He is a Boy Scout with the rank of second class, and he aspires to achieve Eagle Scout. Matthew, along with his troop, participated in the flag-raising ceremony during the school's Patriot Day celebration on September 11th, 2014. Matthew also has been a finalist in the district science fair. His favorite subject is science, and his goal is to pursue higher education at Purdue University with an emphasis in chemistry, which is pretty amazing to know that now. Matthew enjoys reading and spending quality time with friends and family, and he also enjoys visiting his grandfather and many family members in Oahu, Hawaii. And Matthew, we have a special something for you, please. We'll have to have you back, okay? We'll have you back. I told him that we need to give Matthew another shot at that, so we'll invite him back to do it one more time. All right, wonderful performance by Arlington. We really enjoyed that. Okay, now I would like to introduce Mrs. Lynn Carmen Day to give us a presentation on the recognition of a very special teacher.
Good evening, Board President Alavi, Dr. Hanson, esteemed board members. I have such an exciting opportunity tonight to recognize a more than outstanding teacher that serves the students of Riverside Unified School District. So if I could ask Miss Deborah Parr to come up. Hi. Deborah Parr currently works at Ramona High School. She serves in the RAM program and intervenes for students who may need extra support. She's worked in multiple levels. She's worked at the elementary level, the middle school level, and the high school. What's interesting about that is that she has received recognition at all three levels as a Teacher of the Year. Amazing. She currently was not only our Teacher of the Year at the high school level, but she also made County Teacher of the Year. And then recently, we were notified that she was a state semifinalist. She will be recognized February 16th by Tom Torkelson in Sacramento. We have a token of celebration, and we are so indebted to you for the service that you provide to our students. And I look forward to getting to know you better because I've heard you're more than amazing. Congratulations.
Good job. And in your honor, I have a quote for Deborah. A teacher affects eternity. She can never know where her influence stops. Henry Brooks Adams. Thank you very much. And now we have a visitor. We're very happy to welcome back Jeff Frost. Hello, Jeff.
Members of the board, Dr. Hanson, it's great to see you again. I've been coming mostly regularly for the last 6 years, and you've asked me when am I going to bring you some good news. So I am here to say we have good news. We have actual real money this year, and that's always very positive. So I don't know how long I can say that, but I can say it this year, given the ebbs and flows of California's economy. You are never quite sure. And that approach is taken up quite heartily by Governor Brown. In his press conference on the budget, he basically said the budget is finally balanced, more precarious than I would like, but it is balanced. And then in typical Jerry Brown fashion, went on to say, but if we don't rein in the spending, then down the road we are going to be forced to make drastic cuts. So I think he, probably more than anyone else, is cognizant of kind of the history of boom and bust economic times in California. We clearly are on the upswing. The economy is strengthening. There is year-over-year growth. But what is fueling this budget is the incredible amount of capital gains that California is bringing in. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's something like 1% of our taxpayer pays about 80% of the state's tax. And a lot of that is fueled by capital gains. And so we all need to be, it's a good thing, it's revenue, and a lot of this revenue, as I will show, is embedded in the budget for very positive things. But it is something, as policymakers, as you look at developing LCAPs, developing long-range planning, you need to be cognizant that, you know, just as we had an uptick, next year we can have a downtick. So I think that's always something that is important. In terms of those capital gains, the 2015 capital gains is $103 billion, which is $14 billion higher than that they had forecast only a few months ago. My guess is that when we hit the May revision to the budget, that there will probably be additional revenue, somewhere between $1 billion and $2 billion, and the governor will make some decisions about how we should spend that. The 2013 budget, because this revenue is all coming, and it is really over 3 years. It's over the prior year, which is the 13-14 year. It's in the current year where the bulk of the capital gains is, and then it's in the budget year as well. So with the additional revenue in 2013-14, we have finally caught up to where our high water mark was in 2007-8. So for all the years that we've been talking about, you need to get us back to where we were, we need to change our thinking and say, you don't need to get us back to 2007-8. You need to provide the level of revenue that's adequate for us to actually properly educate our kids. And I think that's the mantra that we need to continue to follow. In regard to what the governor has focused his revenue on, there are a number of revenues that, or the bulk of the revenue, in terms of the new $8 billion that is coming to the state, spread over time, but we'll just call it, for purposes of easy discussion, the budget, because it'll all end up getting spent in 15-16, but it's covered over 3 different years. The governor differentiates between ongoing and one-time revenues. So in terms of the ongoing revenue, he's spending $4 billion to close the LCFF gap funding. That's a huge amount. It is real progress toward reaching the targets. There's $500 million for adult education. There are a number of COLAs that are paid with the ongoing money, from the remaining categorical programs to the county office COLA, charter school COLA, and so that is a fairly significant chunk. In terms of the one-time money, the mandate reimbursement and Common Core funding, there's $1.4 billion for Common Core funding. The problem is that he is offsetting that and calling it a mandate reimbursement. So in case of this district, which has significant unfunded mandates, unless there is a change in the final budget, that will basically eliminate the mandate reimbursement that you had outstanding for old mandated claims. The Career Technical Education Grant of $250 million is from one time. K-12 Technology is $100 million, and energy efficiency grants are $320 million. So you can see that he has focused those one-time dollars really on one-time things and sort of created mini categoricals to ensure that they are not embedded in ongoing spending. So I think that's an important thing to realize. Generally speaking, I think that our objectives, as we sort of look at the budget and look about how we should advocate, the first is to try to ensure protecting districts' purchasing power. With all the talk of new revenue, and there is new revenue, which is a positive thing, we also have to make large contributions to PERS and STIRS over the course of the next several years that will total, just for STIRS, 19% of those employees' compensation. So that is a significant factor that you need to look at. The other question is, how can you ensure that your LCFF LCAP goals are met? I think that is something that we need to continue to focus on, and things like the limitations in your budget reserves is an area there, and also looking at LCAP priorities versus compensation issues. You need to look at very carefully as well. There are two or three other things that I wanted to hit on just for a minute, and then take your questions. This is still a growing district. It has a number of school facilities needs. The governor wants to eliminate what, in my view, is probably the most successful school financing program that we have had in this state. If you look back 15 years at where we were in terms of our school facilities needs, we have been able to build our way out of a lot of those needs with a shared local-state partnership, which allows for 55% bonds, developer fees, and then a significant state share. And it has been a very significant success in my view. The governor wants to eliminate the state's role in the school facilities program. That would, in essence, put the entire onus on the district moving forward. This is an issue that the legislature, I think, will push back on. But to be able to say that we're going to have a school bond in 2016, it's very premature to think that with the governor's opposition that will come easily. So there's a lot of work that we need to do, a lot of coalition building, and I think a lot of negotiations with the governor. So we probably won't know where those issues will take us until probably the middle of 2016. So for purposes of how the district looks at a local school bond, these are things you need to know before you make those decisions, and unfortunately, right now we don't. Adult education, I know that adult ed has been a big priority of this board over the years. You have one of the most robust programs in the state of California historically. The governor, in 2007-8, the adult ed program was flexed. Your district was one that chose to keep significant funding in the program. There will be $500 million of new adult education funding available for the new fiscal year. This is really good news. It allows you a lot of flexibility in how you want to use your existing money related to that program. But these will all be new dollars, which is good. The big question that is out there is, how will the money be distributed? Because the governor wants the money to come to regions, and this is one of the 70 adult ed consortiums in the state. The governor wants a 7-member board, in essence, to make those funding decisions, only 2 of which represent K-12 and community college. So you're talking about a lot of Prop 98 money where a voting majority of the board can be non-school people that make those decisions. I think the legislature will probably push back a little bit on that as well. So we'll see how that goes. But I am confident that the $500 million will be there in the budget, and I am confident that the existing maintenance of effort requirement that you've had for 2 years will not be a part of the program moving forward. In terms of career technical education, you know that the regional occupation programs have technically been eliminated. It's my understanding that the district is working cooperatively with the Riverside County office in how that program gets rolled out and the sharing of those revenues. That cannot be said in other parts of the state. There's a lot of concern about where career tech funding will come from. So the governor has created a $250 million pot, $750 million overall over 3 years, that is one time to help jumpstart districts in career-related programs. You will have to commit, or the money will be predicated on sort of meeting certain criteria, but the money will also be looked at in terms of a competitive grant that you will be willing to sustain those programs over time when the state's contribution ends. So I think there'll be a lot of discussions about how that program really ends up getting rolled out. But right now I'm pretty confident that that money will stay because there really is a strong impetus in California. A lot of legislators, I think, are going to strongly support this. So that's kind of a quick overview of the budget. I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Great. We do have some questions. Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Ms. Allaby. Mr. Frost, thank you for always whenever you're down here, I always appreciate your services to us. I was at the City Council the other night, and I heard your peer for them from Washington. It was very broad, and I always feel that you are aware of what's going on in Riverside. To make you more aware, I want to ask the staff, be sure Dr. Lewis and Mr. Williams, the study that you did for us late last year that talked about our facilities here at, really, and when it comes to California, an ancient city is Riverside. Mm-hmm. Therefore, our schools campuses on average, you'll be surprised to learn maybe, are on average 30 years older than our competitors and friends over here in Corona Norco. Right. So we certainly have a maintenance concern and ongoing, not just as we grow, but to take care of what we already own together. You talked about, if you would just help me a little bit on the significant increase, 19% to STRS and PERS. We pay STRS and PERS every year. What are we paying on average of late? What kind of numbers have we been paid on average percentage-wise?
On sort of a per full-time employee equivalent?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mike might be able to help me there. Currently, right.
So we've been paying about half that. Mike said 8.25.
Right.
So that's quite a bit of a jump. Do you see, is this a one-time correction, or do you see us climbing like this a lot?
Well, this is a 5-year sort of rolling increase that ultimately gets to 19%.
Okay.
What the advocate organizations argued for, I mean, the reason that we are in this problem is that we didn't do anything for a decade. There were no increases in employer share, in state share, and we just got farther and farther behind. The difference between how STRS operates, where their board needs to come to the legislature to get an increase authorized, whereas the legislature has granted the PERS board the ability to do increases themselves. So PERS has better kept up with I'll just call it inflation, even though it's demand for revenue, more people retiring, you know, the portfolio not doing as well as anticipated. And so the question really was for the governor and the legislature, what do we do with STRS? I mean, we owe it to our employees to have the system be solvent. Otherwise, you know, they're at risk, and how do we attract bright new teachers to a system that has no retirement. The problem was that we got what we asked for, and we're doing it sort of all at once within this 5-year period, and I don't think anyone's sure that that will actually address all of the unfunded need. The legislature called on STRS to continue to do ongoing evaluation so that, say, 2 or 3 years from now, maybe we can make a mid-course correction. But it's a significant burden. There are those that argue that it should be, in essence, a separate categorical program within Proposition 98 and specific monies put there and not just be your general fund responsibility. There are some people that have argued for that. I haven't gotten a lot of sympathy from legislative staffers or from the governor's office in that regard, however.
And lastly, if I may, and I'm sure Lynn Carmen Day can help you, or Dr. Hanson, but when it comes to the competitive grants and the career tech training, we're very interested in that. We want to be proactive in it. But they can share with you, this past year, we tried to solicit funds to buy an aircraft engine to be able to begin to train for aircraft engine maintenance. As you can imagine, where we live and in this area, we all think, as Mrs. Cloud will definitely tell you, we probably know a little better than what folks in Sacramento think, but we've had a very difficult time, and I'd hope you'd share that with, when you run into our good representatives, our senator and our assemblyman up there, that what is being asked for on the local level, and nothing you don't know, Jeff, it really should be here too. I'm a big proponent of what's coming anyhow, which is logistics warehouses and what can happen there for young people. So I hope that there will be a change in Sacramento, that they'll pay a little more attention to what the locals might know than what they know them all on high.
Well, clearly the governor's in your camp. The governor has championed subsidiarity. He has maintained, very strong openness to local control in all of his LCFF negotiations. My sense, although we haven't seen the specific bill language for the Career Tech program, is that they will give you reasonable latitude in how you define career-related programs. So I'll continue to watch that, and I'll keep the board and Dr. Hanson abreast of that. And we'll certainly advocate for all the flexibility we can get.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Ms. Allaby.
Thank you. Mrs. Cloud.
Actually, you answered one of my questions about adult ed, but I want to make it clear to the audience is that really adult ed's been reconfigured really by Sacramento and has given us that gift. So now we have to unwrap it and figure out what we're going to do here in the district. And Mr. Hunt touched on one of my concerns, which is what the CTE grants are going for at the local level. And I would reiterate his concerns that we at the local level know better than Sacramento where where our students need to be trained, and it's not just in logistics. So I second that. But my concern, my real concern here for you is I understand that the $1.4 billion for Common Core, that he had set aside for that is now considered a mandate reimbursement. And so how legal is that? I mean, you have this pot of money, and this is not the first time this happens in education. It happens semi-regularly. So can you address that a little bit? Are districts raising up and saying something?
The current year budget had, I believe, $100 and some million for technology-related purchases, a lot of which went to small school districts. But it did go out, and it had the same concept attached to it last year, which was, we're sending this money out. For those of you that get it, that have mandate claims, this is considered to be payment for those claims. There was modest complaint from the major organizations. The California Teachers Association really didn't complain much. I thought they would because they're often seen as the protectors of Proposition 98. But this dollar figure is way bigger. And so the stakes are higher with this one. So it'll be interesting to see if there is pushback. The California School Boards Association, which has fought a number of these battles, including the Riverside case a number of years ago on mandate reimbursement, I think may very well be willing to take this issue on. Because, like you say, these are legitimate claims. This is not the way to pay them. But why shouldn't the administration do this if they think they can get away with it? That's really the issue. So,
Kind of a sad way to govern, isn't it?
well, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Lack-Dawson?
Hi, Mr. Frost. Thank you. Just follow up on the career technical education question. I know this is sort of in its nascent stages, so if the budget just came out, do you know who's going to be the bill sponsor, or do we have any idea yet?
This is, I don't think there will be a bill other than the trailer bill language.
Okay.
Okay. And we haven't seen that language yet. We've just sort of had verbal communications with the Department of Finance and then the A pages right up in the budget, which is a narrative.
Okay.
This will match the district's 912 CTE allocation. Now, the reason that they've done this in grant form is that when they put that money into the budget originally, or into the LCFF originally, they were very clear that it didn't have to be used for career purposes. It in essence said something as vague as for CTE programs or whatever else the district wants to spend the money on. So it was completely flexible from your point of view, which was fine. But it's now hard for them to say, well, we're going to give you money, to expand that CTE 912 allocation, build it all the way out for the lifespan of the LCFF, which was one of the initial arguments, when there's no commitment locally that you have to spend it on that. So while there's still no requirement, you're now being induced with the $250 million matching grant to say, all right, we're going to take our 912 allocation, we're going to put it into career programs, very specific about what they are. The state will then match that. And so that's their way of kind of getting you to do what they want done.
Well, the reason I was asking is, my concern would be that I don't know if they're going to put it out into, if it's going to be administered by the education department, or if there's going to be an opportunity for public input or district staff to have opportunity in crafting the guidelines. They often do that for state competitive grants.
Correct.
So I just want to make sure that we have a seat at that table, because this is a huge issue for our district. So if there is an opportunity for us to have some influence on the outcome of that, I want to see us represented there.
I'm reading the board's direction loud and clear.
Yeah.
I will monitor this closely. I'll work with both the Department of Ed and the Department of Finance in what the structure ends up looking like. Right now, depending upon what the trailer bill says and how specific it is, this will be an apportionment by the Department of Ed. Mm-hmm. That will be fairly simple. The question will be if it becomes a competitive grant where they have to pour over a lot of paper, who's going to do that? How's the criteria going to be set?
Yeah. Who sets the criteria?
All of those issues. Yeah. So it very well could end up with the State Board of Education doing a regulatory process.
Yeah.
And we certainly would have public input there as well as private, back channel opportunities to discuss this.
Yeah, because I did notice on your little write-out here is we didn't know if it was a per capita or per LA. So I know it's going to be a little, they haven't gotten there yet. So anyway, I just made my point. So
a lot of it will depend upon how much demand there is for the money, and I think that will then determine how they send it out. So.
Thank you, Mr. Frost. I know you've got to catch a plane tonight. So
I do. It's a pleasure being with you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for being here, and all of you know how to get in touch with me.
Thank
Tom
you.
does all the time. So,
That's true.
so thank you very much. I
Thank you
appreciate it.
very, very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it. Just a reminder to anyone who would like to speak to an issue at the board during public input or to any agenda item, you do need to fill out a card on the back table, and we will take you in due course. Also, Dr. Hanson, some of Mr. Frost's comments were very well taken. I wondered if we could make available maybe the talking points from his presentation. And if anybody wants that, they certainly are welcome to it. Mrs. Carmody, let's go off and talk about the guaranteed admission between Riverside Unified School District and California State University.
Board President Alavi, Dr. Hanson, esteemed board members, I seem to have a lot of super positive things to share this evening, and I'm excited to talk a little bit about this opportunity that we have with the partnership with Cal State University San Bernardino. And the expectation in that partnership is that we are preparing our students that they are college ready, and in turn, Cal State University San Bernardino is guaranteeing admission to the university, which is very exciting. We have with us tonight Dr. Tomas Morales, President of Cal State University San Bernardino. Most recently, he came from the San Gabriel Valley. He was at Cal Poly Pomona, and he has a heart for this work, is very interested in coming up and saying a few words prior to us signing the Memorandum of Understanding. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Tomas Morales, President of Cal State University San Bernardino.
Good evening. First of all, let me also congratulate the Arlington High School chorus. So they really did a wonderful job. I think it's a tribute to the quality education that Riverside Unified School District provides to our students. I want to thank the Chief Academic Officer for that kind introduction, and I'm certainly delighted to be here this evening with you. Let me introduce Dr. Brian Haynes, the Vice President for Student Affairs, Brian, and my other colleague, Ms. Christine Delgado, who's the Director of our Visitor Services and Recruitment and Outreach. I'd like to thank Board President Kathy Alavi, Vice President Tom Hunt, Clerk Brent Lee, and board members Gail Cloud and Patricia Locke Dawson. We are pleased to enter into this historic agreement with the Riverside Unified School District. My thanks to Superintendent David Hanson for his exceptional efforts in advancing the success of the students in the Riverside Unified School District, who we hope will one day be CSUSB alumni. I would like to add that it was a pleasure working with David, not only for his professionalism and dedication, but he is one of our alumni and a great example of the excellent caliber of students we graduate. We're very proud of him. David, thank you. Today's agreement will provide students from the Riverside District a guaranteed admission to Cal State San Bernardino, provided that they meet certain requirements, including grade point average, minimum and course prerequisites, and that they are indeed ready to do college-level work. We believe this partnership will help build new educational opportunities for students from throughout the district and elevate both the college-going and college completion rates in our area, which are among the lowest in the nation, a situation we're all committed to changing. It is crucial that students are prepared for college upon graduation from high school. This process begins at an early age, and CSUSB is committed to working with Riverside and all educational stakeholders to ensure college readiness. As part of this agreement, the district will provide incoming high school freshmen with a challenging academic program and the appropriate advising support to help them meet the eligibility requirements for the California State University system. This makes the path to college considerably smoother and also reduces the need for remediation, allowing students to begin taking courses within their major sooner and thereby helping to ensure timely graduation. We've done a very careful analysis of the characteristics that come into play. What's the difference between students who graduate in 4 to 6 years and students who don't? And the single most important factor, more important than grade point average, more important than SAT scores, is their college readiness. We found that students who must take college courses below, or courses below the college level, simply do not graduate at the same rates of students who enter the university ready to do college level work on day one. Certainly CSUSB, together with Riverside Unified School District, is committed to serving students throughout the region, and this agreement reflects that commitment. Superintendent Hanson and I strongly believe that this agreement will help build a college-going culture and also incentivize students to achieve academically and to pursue their professional aspirations, an outcome that will benefit the Riverside community in many affirmative ways. We look forward to continuing to working with all stakeholders in elevating student academic achievement in our region, and I want to thank the board for your commitment to that objective. Thank you.
Could I ask that the entire board get their picture taken for this auspicious day? Yes.
Do you have it?
Great. President? Thank you so much. Tom? Likewise. No, I think we're going to go through this. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. Riverside has been a traditional use for police on the store. Historical. Hence the MOU. And if we can put that on the system, that's great.
Every time I'm going to give them all the kids for an app, and I'll say, where are you going real quickly?
How do you want to do it? Okay. Okay.
Is it okay for me to Let's come out.
Thank you. This really is a momentous thing for our USD kids to have the opportunity with certain requirements, as he mentioned, to get an automatic entrance into CSU. So very, very special.
In closing, I'd like to also express my appreciation to our staff, our counselors, Jorge Perez also, who we have some representation here, and I'd like to express our appreciation to them as well, because remember, partnerships take the second part of the partners. So very important. We have just got some data that said that we were up 130 admissions to Cal State University San Bernardino last year, offer of admissions, and so I do want to applaud our staff for making that happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it very much. Now we have a special presentation by Ms. Woody Rucker Hughes in honor of a tribute to Black History Month. We're honored to have you come down and share with us today. I think you're going to have to pull that. Yeah, thanks.
Chairman Olive and Vice Chair and honorable members of the board, and to my superintendent, I thank you for allowing me time tonight to make some remarks. I'm not at all nervous. Of course, you know I work for you. But tonight I am coming as the president of the Riverside branch of the NAACP, a branch that is 71 years old here in Riverside. And you know, this board and NAACP here in Riverside have history. Just read what Attorney Littleworth talks about in No Easy Way, and the fact that NAACP stepped up and was there as you made some very historical decisions. My talking points tonight have to do with the continuing importance of Black History Month. It's the month of February, shortest month of the year, but nonetheless a very great one. I'll begin by indicating that Carter G. Woodson, father of Black History Month, and the second Black American to receive a PhD in history from Harvard, created the Negro History Week in Washington, D.C. in February 1926. Woodson was a driven man whose only passion was history, and he expected everyone to share his passion. Therefore, he established the Association for the Study of Negro Life and Culture, an organization whose goal was to make Black history accessible to a wider audience. This project led Woodson to create Negro History Week in 1926 to ensure that school children would be exposed to Black history. Woodson chose the second week of February in order to celebrate the birthdays of Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. It is important to realize that Negro History Week was not born in a vacuum. The 1920s saw the rise in interest in African American culture. It was a time called the Harlem Renaissance. Langston Hughes, Georgia Douglas, Johnson, and Claude McKay wrote about the joys and the sorrows of blackness. Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington and Jimmy Lumford wrote music that captured the new sounds and rhythms of the cities. Artists like Aaron Douglas and Richard Barth and Lois Jones created images that created blackness and provided more positive images of the African American experience. The question that faces us today is whether Black History Month is still relevant. Is it still a vehicle for change? Or has it simply become one more school assignment that has limited meaning for children? Has Black History Month become a time when television and media stack their black materials? Or is it a useful concept whose goals have been achieved? After all, few can deny the presence and importance of African Americans to American society. After all, African American history is American history. I would like to suggest that despite the profound change in race relations that has occurred in our lives, Carter G. Woodson's vision for Black history as a means of transformation and change is still quite relevant. African American History Month, with a dedicated focus and subtle adjustment, is still a beacon of change and hope that is still sorely needed in this world. The chains of slavery are gone, but we are all still not free. The great diversity within the Black community needs the glue of the African American past to remind us of not just how far we have traveled, but to, lo, how far there is still to go. Let me conclude by reemphasizing that Black History Month continues to serve us well, in part because Woodson's vision and creation is as much about today as it was about the past. Experiencing Black history every year reminds us that history is not dead or distant from our lives. Ultimately, African American history and its celebration throughout February is just as vibrant today as it was when Woodson created it 89 years ago. The dedicated focus in February helps us to remember that there is no more powerful force than a people steeped in their history, and there is no higher cause than remembering and honoring our collective struggle, as well as the trials and tribulations, joys and sorrows, accomplishments, victories, and efforts of our ancestors. I commend RUSD for continuing to step up to the plate, to show Black Lives Matter, too, by visibly participating in the Black History Kickoff this Saturday, and the Black History Parade and Expo the following Saturday. I applaud the individual schools that have chosen to set aside time on their respective campuses to honor and celebrate the contributions of African Americans during this month. I urge high school principals to encourage talented African American youth to compete in NAACP's academic, cultural, technological, scientific Olympics of the Mind, also known as ACSO, when it is presented, and to continue to make a way for youth of all hues to witness the celebration of this community's best and brightest at our annual Freedom Fund Awards ceremony in May. But I come to urge this board and the district administrators to consider forming an ad hoc committee of parents, students, teachers, and managers, and the administration, whose task would be to promote a district-wide celebration inclusive of supplemental educational curriculum for next year and for years to follow. And if you get stuck on what there is to learn about Black History Month, consider, if you will, this story about a young man named Theo who wondered aloud to his mother, what would the world be like without Black people in it? This is a story about a little boy named Theo who woke up one morning and asked his mother, "Mom, what if there were no Black people in the world?" Well, his mother thought about that for a moment and then said, "Son, follow me around today and let's see what it would be like if there were no Black people in the world." Mom said, "Now go get dressed and we'll get started." Theo ran to his room to put on his clothes and his shoes. His mother took one look at him and said, "Theo, where are your shoes? And those clothes are all wrinkled." "Son, I must iron them." However, she reached for the ironing board, and it wasn't there. You see, Sarah Boone, a black woman, invented the ironing board. And Jan E. Matzlinger, a black man, invented the shoe-lasting machine. There's the ironing board. And there's the shoe-lasting machine. "Oh, well," she said, "please go and do something with your hair." Theo ran in the room to comb his hair, but the comb wasn't there. You see, Walter Salmons, a black man, invented the comb. Theo decided to just brush his hair, but the brush was gone. You see, Lydia O. Newman, a black female, invented that brush. Well, that was a sight. No shoes, wrinkled clothes, hair mess, even Mom's hair without hair care inventions of Madam C.J. Walker. Well, you get the picture. Mom told Theo, "Let's do our chores around the house, then take a trip to the grocery store." Theo's job was to sweep the floor. He swept and swept and swept, and when he reached for the dustpan, wasn't there. You see, Lloyd P. Ray, a black man, invented that dustpan. Take a look. There's our comb and our brush and Madam C.J. Walker's hair care, and there's your dustpan. So he swept his pile of dirt over in a corner and left it there. He then decided to mop the floor, but the mop was gone. You get it. Thomas W. Stewart, a black man, invented that mop. Theo yelled to his mom, "Mom, I'm not having any luck." "Well, son," she said, "let me finish washing these clothes and we'll prepare a list for the grocery store." When the wash was finished, she went to place the clothes in the dryer, but guess what? It wasn't there. George Salmon, a black man, invented that clothes dryer. Mom asked Theo to go get a pencil and get them some paper to prepare their lists for the market. So Theo ran for the paper and the pencil, but noticed the pencil lead was broken. Well, he was out of luck because John Love, a black man, invented that pencil sharpener. Mom reached for a pen, but it was not there either, because William Purvis, a black man, invented that fountain pen. And as you see, there's the mop. There's the clothes dryer, and the pencil sharpener, and the pen. As a matter of fact, Lee Beveridge invented the typewriting machine, and W.A. Lovett the advanced printing press. Theo and his mother decided just to head out to the market. Well, when Theo opened the door, he noticed the grass was as high as he was tall. You see, John Burr, a black man, invented that lawnmower. They made their way over to the car and found it just wouldn't go. You see, Richard Spikes, a black man, invented the automatic gear shift. And Joseph Gamble invented the supercharged system of internal combustion engines. They also noticed that a few cars that were moving were running into each other and having wrecks because there were no traffic lights. You see, Garrett A. Morgan, a black man, invented that traffic light. Well, it was getting late, so they walked to the market and got their groceries and returned home. And just when they were about to put away the milk, the eggs, and butter, they noticed the refrigerator was gone. You see, John Standard, a black man, invented that refrigerator, so they just left the food on the counter. By this time, Theo noticed it was getting mighty cold. Mom went to turn up the heat, and what do you know? Alice Parker, a black female, invented that heating furnace. Even in the summertime, they would have been out of luck because Frederick Jones, a black man, invented the air conditioner. It was almost time for Theo's father to arrive home, and he usually takes the bus, but there was no bus because its precursor was the electric trolley invented by another black man, Elbert R. Robinson. He usually takes the elevator from the office on the 20th floor, but there was no elevator because Alexander Miles, a black man, invented that elevator. He also usually dropped off the office mail at the nearby mailbox, but it was no longer there because Philip Downing, a black man, invented the letter drop mailbox, and William Barry invented the postmarking and canceling machine. Theo and his mother sat in the kitchen with their heads in their hands, and when their father arrived, he asked, "Why are you sitting in the dark?" Why? Because Lewis Howard Latimer, a black man, invented the filament within the light bulb. And as I conclude, Theo quickly learned more about what it would be like if there were no black people in the world, especially if he ever got sick and needed blood. Dr. Charles Drew, a black scientist, found a way to preserve and store blood, which led to his starting the world's first blood bank. Well, what if a family had to have open-heart surgery? That would not have been possible because Dr. Daniel Hale Williams, a black doctor who was one who performed the first open-heart surgery. So, if you ever wonder, like Theo, what would it be like without black people in this world? Well, I guarantee you it's pretty plain to see. You'd still be in the dark. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a wonderful tribute for our Black History Month. Thank you, Woody. We very appreciate it. All right. We now have our high school representatives who are going to be giving us a little update on what's going on in their high schools. Let's start with Kira Rishaw from Arlington High School.
Good evening, Mrs. Alavi, Dr. Hanson, and members of the board. Good to see you. I would like to start my report by talking about our crazy midwinter week we had this past week. Our theme was Alice's Mad Tea Party with Alice in Wonderland. And our midwinter court is nominated by all of our clubs. So each club nominates one or two people depending on their size. And that made up our entire court, which was, I think, about 50 people. So it was kind of hard to organize everything, but everything ran very smoothly. At our winter rally on Friday, we recognized all of the winter sports along with our midwinter court. And at the dance, Sabrina Garcia was crowned queen, Dino Suarez king, Emily Conaway princess, and Nick Durkee prince. And everything ran smoothly, and our ASB is very relieved that it is now over. On the 9th and 10th of January, Arlington held the two-day Riverside County exclusive wrestling tournament. 39 schools were in attendance with a total of 400 students. And I believe that 7 of the top schools, as rated by the Press Enterprise, were also there in attendance, which just shows the competition of the event. Our LCAP funding is also helping our sports with our intramurals. We have 132 students currently playing football at lunch with their individual teams that they have made. And our championships are this week of Valentine's Day. That week, it's 2 weeks from now. And the winner will get a champion shirt, and all those who participated will get participation shirts, which is what the LCAP money is helping to fund. And after football, we are going to be doing dodgeball. This week on February 4th, Remy Nerio is going to be having a signing ceremony with Sacramento State because he got a full athletic scholarship there. So we're very, very proud of him. Along with that, Brian Perez was nominated by Ken Calvert's office for the Air Force Academy. This is also another thing that we're very, very proud of, along with our JROTC accreditation, and they passed with flying colors with the highest rating, and they got an honor unit for the second year in a row. So this is also something we're very proud of at Arlington as our ROTC program. Lastly, we have our History Day. We had 3 seniors, I believe, go for a group presentation, and they got first place. So they'll be moving forward with a competition. Their names are Ali Gulrez, Clemente Bacani, and Angel Gutierrez. We'd like to congratulate them on their win. This concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Mr. Hunt.
Thank you for the report tonight. I understand, Kira, that you have a new football coach that came from Indiana. Do you know about that? Or
We do. I think he starts Monday, either this Monday or next Monday, but we weren't going to put that in because we weren't sure what was.
And we'll be surprised next month. I didn't bring it up. You surprise us. We'll see you again.
Mrs. Cloud.
I just want to commend you and your fellow chorus for such a beautiful presentation tonight. Arlington really rocks in the music area. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I agree with her. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Risha Patel from Martin Luther King.
Good evening, Mrs. Alavi, Dr. Hanson, and honorable members of the board. This year has been off to a terrific start for King High School. At the end of December, we kicked off winter break at our Home Alone themed winter rally. At the rally, we recognized the accomplishments of our fantastic winter sports, many of which are currently competing for a Big 8 league title. This event proved to be one that united our whole school with the involvement of teachers and various other groups on campus. This is also the final day of our annual Toys for Tots drive, and this year we had great participation from the student body, and we were able to collect over 100 toys for the Riverside Fair housing. 1,000 toys. After coming back from winter break, students focused in on finals week, and we were able to demonstrate all we had learned during our first semester of school. Following finals, King High students were able to come together at the annual Martin Luther King Junior Walk. Several leadership classes such as ASB and clubs such as BSU and DECA walked in honor of Martin Luther King. And another event that took place at King in order to honor the man our school is named after was the annual Unity Luncheon put on by our Black Student Union. And this event is always really great because it brings together all of King High School, no matter what race, and truly epitomizes the unity that Dr. King strived for and the unity my school exhibits on a day-to-day basis. King High School just sent 37 projects to the District National History Day competition on January 30th, and 12 projects will be moving forward to the county competition, so we're very proud of all those students who participated. And in January, King High School's DECA chapter also attended the district conference and had tremendous success with 15 overall winners. King DECA will be attending the State Career Development Conference in 2 weeks in Santa Clara for a chance to attend the international competition. This weekend was our annual winter formal dance with the theme of Fairy Tale Ball, and it was a fun event with over 700 students in attendance. King High's WASC evaluation is quickly approaching and will take place from March 22nd to the 25th. And to promote WASC and spread the word on campus, ASB will be selecting students from various groups on campus to participate in a Got WASC campaign. This will entail posting pictures around school and handing out informational flyers about WASC and wristbands to spread the word about what it is and so students know what's going on campus. And finally, I'd like to take a moment to congratulate Mr. Hanson on his new position at the district office. We are very proud of him and would like to wish you luck on finding a replacement for such an amazing principal. That concludes my report, and it's great to be King. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Thank you. Is there anyone that has any questions? Okay,
Thank
you
you.
so much. Yes, you're right. He's going to be a tough act to follow, isn't he? All right, David Andrade from Abraham Lincoln High School. Is he in? Okay, well, we miss him, and we'll get a report later from Abraham Lincoln. And now we have our district superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam President Halavine, members of the board, and to the employees and community members that are here. We welcome you, and again, it's just a wonderful thing to come to these and see the talent of our students, the dedicated staff, and I too echo the appreciation, Woody, longtime friend and staff member, for that wonderful tribute that you did this evening. As many of you know, last week I had a chance to attend several days at the Superintendent's Symposium, where I attended a full-day strand on how to become, for new superintendents, an effective superintendent. Learned all about contracts and negotiations and evaluations and just a whole variety of things. At the conference, we had some wonderful keynote speakers. We had the chance to hear from Michael Fullen and his work. Maybe you've probably heard about him. Matter of fact, several of our principals are studying his latest book on the principalship. We also listened to Andy Graves, Liz Wiseman. She's the author of many wonderful books, and she came and gave a keynote on that when you're in the state of being a rookie, that's when your senses are the very best, and that's when some of the best work is accomplished. And then also former Superintendent Carlos Garcia. He's the former superintendent of Fresno, San Francisco, and Las Vegas. And then we listened to former superintendent just recently of Los Angeles Unified District, John Daisy, about the Vergara case and several of the other things that they are working through in LA Unified. In addition, probably one of my greatest takeaways is I attended AXA's One Voice workshop. That's a new workshop for the superintendents. And it was very much in line with what I see happening with CSBA workshop, or the One Voice of CSBA, and also CTA. And there are 6 different common themes that we talked about there in the One Voice. And number one, and so as AXA certainly lobbies and works with Sacramento, again, it was very similar to CSBA's and CTA. But postponing the API until the spring of 2016 as we continue to transition to the new state standards, the new testing system this spring. That's the One Voice. The need for school districts to receive additional money as we continue to transition into the Common Core or the new state standards. Provide districts with ongoing funding for professional development to help improve effective teaching of all of our teachers across the board. Another theme for One Voice was to create an overarching message that California should be funded within the top 10 of how much we fund towards our students, and currently in our nation I believe are 48 or 49. And last, to spend a lot of time talking about developing a definition for what is adequacy and what it takes to really run a quality school. There's a difference between being in the top 10 and then what is adequate education actually cost. And so it was a time well spent. I was very grateful for my time there, and to spend some time with the superintendents from the county, as well as I had a chance to actually spend some one-on-one time with Mike Hansen, no relation, but he's the superintendent in Fresno, and also John Daisy, the former superintendent in Los Angeles, to spend some time talking to them, as well as some of the other larger urban school districts. So it was time well spent. Thank you for your support and allowing me to go. I came back and just Saturday had a chance to be here at University Heights Middle School and to celebrate with Mrs. Alavi and Mrs. Cloud over 230 students that participated or actually are being recognized at the district level for their work for the History Day project this last year. And several of them were nominated for the county. And I want to thank the parents and the students and all the staff that goes behind the scenes for developing the project. It was a very well-run event that day. And to start the morning off, too, at Ramona High School, the opportunity to go participate in the Parent Symposium or the Parent Institute, where we had about 500 of our parents, primarily English learners, parents of English learner students, that had a chance to attend several workshops. We had a chance to listen to our keynote speaker, who was wonderful. In the gymnasium, they had the booths set up in several different partners, whether it's agencies in town, business partners, or universities. It was just a really wonderful thing to be part of, and to see that this was the 4th annual event that Riverside has done. And again, I want to thank the business partners, the staff, several of the DLAC leadership members that participated, and our own nutritional services who fed all those folks breakfast and lunch. It was all in all just a wonderful, wonderful day. And the last thing I'd like to recognize, actually give a shout out to 2 of our students. You know, the White House Commission on Presidential Scholars in the United States Department of Education. They select students every year to recognize them as some of the highest honors for our nation's most distinguished graduating seniors. And we had 2 students from our district who applied and were recognized, and annually up to only 140, 145 students are selected. And so we had Andrew Zhu, a student at John Dewey North High School. I'd like to congratulate him for receiving that distinction, as well as a student from Riverside Poly, Zubin, I believe it's Mishara. I want to congratulate Zubin and Andra for being selected as some of the top high school students throughout the state of, or throughout the nation. And last, we had a teacher from Gage Middle School. Many of you know Robert Alvarez, Bob Alvarez. He's been a long time in the school district. He was selected and named by the California Council for Social Studies as the Middle School Teacher of the Year. I want to congratulate again Mr. Alvarez. He's been with the district for actually longer than 16 years. I first met Mr. Alvarez when I was at Central Middle School years ago. And prior to coming to Central, he was a track coach at North High School. He's been at Gage Middle School for 16 years as an ASB leader there, department chair for 12 years, and also an outstanding history teacher. And back in 2013, the Inland Empire Council and this school board recognized Mr. Alvarez as a Social Study Teachers of the Year as well. So congratulations to our 2 students and Mr. Alvarez for their recognitions and certainly representing our district and themselves very, very well. We'd like to, again, give a shout out to each of them. I'd like to invite Ms. Lynn Carmody to come to the podium and give you a quick update on the work that's happening in educational services.
Just wanted to give you an update. We just had another LCAP steering committee last week, and at that meeting we went over the governor's proposed budget for the local control funding formula and also the implications or funding for supplemental and concentration grant students, the unduplicated students. We looked at a timeline, a project timeline and calendar, and also a communication strategy. So we have scheduled some community engagement meetings. The steering committee felt strongly that we would do a similar type of engagement with the community, even though we're not starting from scratch. We have scheduled those meetings starting February 18th at Martin Luther King High School. At those meetings, we will have students who run the meetings. We will be having a video to highlight some of the progress we've made so they can visually see some of the things that the LCAP has impacted in our district, which is very exciting. And then we're going to have students lead what we call a World Cafe, where parents, community, other students can come and give their input to year 2 and 3 and anything else, any other ideas that they want to add to our planning process. So we are initiating those meetings. It's very exciting. I want to also thank some of the folks working behind the scenes. That's Gloria Cowder, Program Development, Joyce Threadgold, who's amazing logistics coordinator, and then Jackie Paul, who is working on the communication strategy. One other thing that I want to note is that we do have a draft of a school assistance plan. If you remember back to the LCAP, we were looking at it being a high value, a high need for us to look at the social, emotional well-being of students in our schools. And so we do have our initial draft, and I look forward to giving you more information about that as we refine the plan. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Carmody, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Thanks very much. We are now to the point where we'd like to hear from public input. These items are items that are not on our agenda, but are items that you just come to the board and you wish us to hear about. We ask you to please limit your comments to 3 minutes. We'll begin with Craig Goodwin.
Buenos tardes. Thank you, Dr. Hanson and President Alavey. Today I rise to represent the Black History Month Committee of Riverside. And we're having a parade that's coming up very soon. I think we've discussed it. Also, the Poly High School class of 1973, and just as important, the Lowell Elementary School class of 1965, which has significance to us as a result of Riverside Unified being the first large school in the United States to voluntarily integrate the schools. We're having a parade this year, and I wanted to thank Dr. Hansen most of all for the immersion that the school district has this year in our parade as we celebrate the events of 50 years ago. And I think it's really important that we understand that Riverside history and black history are basically the same thing. The opportunity for us to bring some things out that hadn't been discussed before is just a matter that they are black things that happened that we want to make sure that we all get a chance to celebrate. Our parade is coming up on Valentine's Day, and we'd love for you all to come out and celebrate with us. It's going to be on the Main Street Mall, 10 a.m. This coming Saturday, we have the kickoff event for the parade. It's going to be at Central Middle School from 5 to 7 p.m. There's participation by various members of the school district, as well as of the community, some events that are going to go on. And it's one of those things that we can make some history, I think. It's a good opportunity for us to get together and make history. In 1914, Booker T. Washington came to Riverside, California. He made 3 stops, it's told. I learned this as part of my docent training on the Mission Inn Foundation. It said he stopped at Second Baptist Church on the east side. He stopped at the Congregationalist Church, which is also Frank Miller's church. And he spoke at the music room at the Mission Inn, which they said he spoke to overflow crowds. We have an opportunity to make history again and again. We talked about black history. Wadra was kind enough to bring all the things that happened. And I assure you, as of this point, I haven't invented anything other than my 3 children and 3 grandchildren. But there's always a chance. There's always a chance. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that this is inclusive. This is something that we wanted everybody to be a part of. We call it Black History Month, and we bring it out to celebrate those things that makes Riverside a true world-class city. And that's what we want to have happen, and hope that all of you, all in the audience, everybody that's here has an opportunity to come out and share it with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We look forward to it. Nathan Miller, who would like to talk about an RCCD partnership. Hello, Mr. Miller.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Dr. Hansen to Riverside Unified School District, and thank you for giving me this time to speak, President Alavi and members of the board. My name's Nathan Miller. I serve as a trustee for the Riverside Community College District, and our partnership is of exceptional value, and I think we've accomplished quite a few things as a result of it. And forgive me, because I don't have the ability to stay later. I have a prior engagement. But more importantly, I'm a proud parent of a student that attends the Riverside Unified School District STEM Academy. And I have to say that your school has made a profound impact in his life and our lives as his parents. I've just watched him flourish in that environment. It's a school that was absolutely perfect for him. He's had a great experience in public education, but when we found out about that opportunity and that we could get him in there, I knew that the public schools he was in prior had a difficulty meeting his needs, just because he's a very exceptional student, in my opinion at least. And we got him into the STEM Academy, and like I said, he's been flourishing, which was highlighted today. He received, I believe, the highest honors award at the school. So I'm very proud of him in that accomplishment, and I'm really happy that the school, that RUSD has provided that opportunity, not just for my son, but obviously for all the other students that have benefited from it. And that being said, you know, with RCCD, we always seek to work to find collaborative partnerships. I actually just returned from Florida last weekend when we did a presentation just about that kind of a program. We have a collaborative partnership with Corona Norco Unified School District and our Norco College, and we did a presentation, and we ended up winning the national award out of the 10 finalists that were up there, which which was great bragging rights to come back with. And we'd love to do the same kind of partnerships here. I don't know if there's a future with Riverside Community College District helping out the STEM Academy or any of your schools for that matter, but if there is an opportunity, I'm here to seek that, to work with you on it, and that's what we're here for. So again, thank you very much for allowing that opportunity for our students, my son, and I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to that too. Thank you. Mr. Robert Schwartz.
Thank you. My subject is Common Core. I addressed you last year on that same subject, and some new facts have come out in the meantime, and I'd like to leave each of you with a copy of that report, if I may.
Absolutely. Let's. She'll take it. Thank you.
This is what parents don't like about Common Core, and if parents don't like it, we shouldn't like it. That's my opinion, anyway. Anyway, the tests are the primary tool of Common Core. The way it works out, College Board are written by the tests are written by College Board, but the president of the College Board has to be the architect of Common Core. Kind of a mix-up there. In Common Core, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison are eliminated almost completely in their teaching. The American Revolution and George Washington is barely mentioned. One sentence goes to the Declaration of Independence. I'm not comfortable with that. I don't know how you are. Some of the things that are sidestepped in Common Core are the military history, our involvement in World War II, victory in communist expansion, and a couple of good examples here. In Arkansas, 6th grade history class, U.S. Bill of Rights is outdated, and the class was assigned to revise and edit a new Bill of Rights. And they asked, what's your religion? What's your sexual orientation? What's your parents' political affiliation? Should assault rifles be banned? I mean, should this be in the classroom? You answer that question. A mother of an 8-year-old student came home and had an assigned homework about adultery. A 3rd grade student. This came from Common Core materials. Stanford mathematician and former member of Common Core Validation Committee, Dr. James Milgram, said if controversial standards are not repealed, Americans' place as a competitor in the technological industry will be undermined. That's just the beginning. American history is represented as 4 centuries of racism, economic oppression, gender discrimination. Gone are our heroes. Religion is expunged from New York State's account.
Mr. Schwartz, we've run out of time, but thank you for this. We'll all take a moment to read it. Thank you.
Well,
I appreciate you bringing it.
Because when I was here last year, well, your representative was completely dedicated to it and could find no fault with it. Obviously, it has a few faults.
Thank you. We will take
you.
a minute to read it. Thank you so much. Mr. Jason Hunter.
Hi there, Jason Hunter, Ward 1, Riverside. Good evening, board and executive staff. I'm sure at least a few of you are aware that the rules of procedure and conduct of business by the City of Riverside City Council has been a topic of considerable conversation, change over the past several months. You see the rules surrounding how public input can be made can influence both the message sent and if the message is offered at all. So I'll read to you from your public input section on your sheet, your agenda that I was given. It says, public input provides an opportunity for citizens to make suggestions, identify concerns, or request information about matters affecting the school district for items not on the agenda. I would proffer that this board cannot restrict such speech as long as it falls under the jurisdiction of this body. Secondly, it says complaints against employees will normally be heard in closed session, and the district's complaint procedure should be followed before discussion with the board. And I would recommend that your legal staff review the case of Baga versus Moreno Valley and decide whether they want to modify that language. When I filled out my comment card, I was told I would not have the ability to make comment on items on the discussion calendar should I use my 3 minutes during this period, and secondly, that I needed to put my address and telephone number on my comment card. I would recommend these policies be reviewed as well, and would enjoy working with your staff collaboratively to accommodate the board's desire to conduct its meeting efficiently, while also encouraging free and open public discussion, while also following the state of California's statute and judicial precedents. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I hope to be hearing from the district's representatives soon.
Thank you, but how are we to get in touch with you, Mr. Hunter? Would you be willing to share with us your phone number?
Tom can get in touch with me, I'm sure.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, thank you very much. Sandra LaHood? Did I pronounce that correctly? Thank you.
Hello, hi, nice to see you. Dr. Hansen, you were in my classroom last week. You may remember I'm a teacher at Central Middle School, also a parent in the district. And although my issue may seem trivial, I think that all of us here are aware that fees have become a way to generate money that's not seen. And for example, most people here have purchased items on Amazon. And I'm just wondering why we pay $1.95 every time we use PayPams. So when, I don't know if you're aware of this, but when a parent has to put money on their student's lunch card, it costs $1.95 each time we have to pay. And to me, that seems excessive. I purchase all my other items and I never have to pay to purchase them. So I'm just wondering why a school district is, promoting student health and nutrition and would like to see students eating their lunches and having the money for those lunches, charges $1.95. And it's also a problem for lower income people because it's charged each time. So someone like myself can put a larger sum of money on the card and I'm charged $1.95. But if somebody could only put $20, that's a huge percentage when you multiply. I asked my students today, would you rather have $100,000 or a penny multiplied each day for a month? I mean, you've heard that story before. And I think we forget that those little costs really add up. And I would like to see that removed if it's possible. Also, I would like to give a plug for the STEM school. My son attends there too, and Mr. Miller made great comments. They have an outstanding staff and amazing administration, so I'd just like to put that in as well.
Thank you very much. And we'll definitely look into this. Maybe someone could get back to Mrs. LaHood and talk to her about this. The board would also like to know, wouldn't they, about this process? So, yes, thank you for bringing that to our attention. I appreciate that. All right. Thank you. Okay, now we look forward to our district employee group reports. Let's start with CSEA presentation by Mr. Daniel Redd, President of the Riverside Unified School District, Chapter 506.
Good evening, President Alvey, Dr. Hanson, members of the board. This last month in December, we had our elections for our new e-board, and they were elected, and we had the installation dinner on January 24th. Thank you for those who could attend. And at this time, I'd like to introduce this year's new board. And when I introduce you, please stand up and stay standing. Our first vice president is Joe Baglio. He's a plumbing specialist with 19 years with the district. He's not here tonight. Second vice president is Mickey McDonald. She's a health assistant with 24 years with the district. Our third vice president is David Tovar. He's a grounds maintenance worker with 8 years with the district. Our CPRO is chapter public relations officer is Bernie Holt. He's vision and braille translator with our transcriber with 7 years with the district. Yay, Bernie. Our chief union steward is Carrie Aldis. She's a special education instructional aide 2 with 28 years with the district. Our treasurer is Nancy Vincent. She's got 21 years experience. She's an M&O budget tech, and she's not here tonight. Our secretary is Colleen Hairston. She's been with the district for over 30 years, and she's from NIS. And our past president is Richard Carpenter. He's in communications, and he's not here tonight. And our negotiations team will be going to another training this Saturday in Desert Sands. And this is who's going to be representing our CSA this year, and they have a lot of knowledge, and I think they're going to be doing a great job.
Thank you so much. Thank you for stepping up and running and taking over those responsibilities. That's very nice. Our PTA president, Sandy Page, could not be here this evening, so we'll move ahead to our consent calendar. Those are items generally taken as routine and to be enacted by the board in one motion. Mr. Hunt?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Ms. Allaby. I would make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented by staff.
Mrs. Cloud?
I second that motion.
Are there any other things that need to be pulled? Okay, then we will now vote on that consent agenda. Okay, that has passed. Thank you very much. Okay. Dr. Hanson?
Thank you, Madam President. I'd just like to take a moment to introduce somebody that we just hired on the consent calendar. And the reason is because this person is going to be working very closely with Lynn Carmaday on the third floor of one of the confidential assistants, and she's new to our district. Hard to replace Sue Holmes, but we found someone who has wonderful skills that comes to us from Reno Valley Unified School District, Nora Lopez Perez. Nora, would you please stand? Just a brief history so you can get to know Nora a little bit. She has been with Reno Valley Unified since 2012, most recently as the principal secretary. From 2005 to 2012, she was an executive secretary in the Reno Valley for the Internal Revenue Services, and previously worked before this as an executive assistant in other businesses. She has a bachelor's degree in business and is currently enrolled in a master's program at the CBU. So Nora, welcome to Riverside Unified, and it's going to be a pleasure working with you and get to know you.
Very good. Welcome. Okay, moving ahead to our discussion calendar. Our first item is our Riverside STEM School, an update to the Board of Education. And I thought that if the board is okay, we will hear the presentation, we will ask clarifying questions. If anybody would like to speak to it from the audience, we can then hear their comments, and then we'll go on to have board comments. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Board President Allaby, Dr. Hanson, esteemed board members. The purpose of our presentation tonight is really to provide you with an update since the last December study session. So the information you'll receive tonight will talk about the progress. I want to start out by thanking Mr. Antonio Garcia for his efforts in pulling the team together with Dale Moore and the wonderful staff at Riverside STEM Academy. During the presentation, we're also going to try to respond to some of the questions that have been posed since that time as well. In your packet, as an appendix You will have the directional statement that was first put together by the ad hoc committee last year, the design process chart, and the Gantt chart that was provided, the timeline from the architect. So the STEM program is offering for next year engineering and technology courses through Project Lead the Way. It'll be an opportunity for all students. Since December, they have integrated computer coding into their math classrooms. There was a discussion about virtual online courses for intervention, for the potential of physical education, and I know that a question came up about potentially offering physical education for 2 years to open up the schedule, and we are currently in progress of looking into that with the state. The advisory component has been a wonderful discussion with the staff, and the idea is that students would 4 days a week get to meet in an advisory time where they would work on a capstone project. They would be supported by teachers, and it would be a project that is really unique to the school in as it is worked on from the freshman year all the way through the senior year. So that's something exciting and unique to the school. The STEM lab is the opportunity for students who may need additional support at the school and is underway at this time. We also have discussed with you the idea of exploration of a flexible type of schedule to best suit the needs of the students, something unique to the school. They're looking at UC Berkeley's model currently. And the discussion about other course work rather than utilizing AP has been under discussion at the school as well. Part of that discussion moves us into the next idea of partnerships, and we have had some of the conversations with some potential partners. We currently work with UCR informally with respect to some of their interns coming on campus, with respect to some of our students going and doing some lab work and some other ideas. We have had some more formal discussions with UCR and their provost about the idea of having a memorandum of understanding for some of those ideas that we are utilizing informally at the time. Also with RCC, there's some exciting work that's taking place because we have met approximately 5 times with the vice president interim there named Susan Mills, and have began the discussion about actually having those RCC college level courses on the campus of Riverside STEM Academy. Very exciting. The next step for that is to actually have the 2 faculty come together and look at next steps. So they would be determining through their expertise in science, technology, engineering, and math exactly what coursework would best benefit the students, starting from the 9th grade through 12th grade. What makes it so exciting is we did have the opportunity to work with the dean, and they're very thrilled. But it's open to both the 2 faculties agreeing what's best for the students, and will likely be phased in as a small pilot next year, depending upon what we look to for long term. So this may replace AP in some cases and may not, but that dialogue is just in the beginning, and so I wanted to let you know about that. We also have the wonderful opportunity to have many business partners, and we have a lot of work to do with respect to internships and some of the mentorship ideas. At the Academy, they do have a great speaker series that is unique to the Riverside STEM Academy, and we look to just continue to enhance that. Something else that we have progressed on since that December meeting, study session, is the idea of the STEM Advisory Committee. The STEM Advisory Committee will be an ongoing committee, and if you look at your chart, you'll see they're going to be supporting the school with input from students, teachers, parents, and community members. So we have a great resource at the school because many of the parents have some science background, and that's been a great asset to us, and we continue to want to utilize that partnership through advisory and also in expanding our program. At this time, Antonio Garcia is going to continue on with enrollment.
Good evening, Mrs. Alavi, Dr. Hanson, members of the board. I'd like to discuss a bit about some of the aspects of our student enrollment at the STEM Academy. As planning pertains to enrollment of students, one of the things that we need to provide is a system to meet the increasing demands for the program. We have a very high demand, and that's been increasing every year. At the same time, we need to study further the implications of limiting or eliminating inter-district transfers. This is something that's been brought up by at least one board member. Also, there is a need to find ways in which to facilitate better student representation from geographic areas and student demographics. Another issue that's been brought up by the board. Additionally, we need to decide to what extent we need to have consistency with other lottery choice programs. There are several lotteries that we do have currently within the district. And whether we want to address differently the children of school staff, members at the STEM Academy, and siblings of current students, some of which, in both cases, are inter-district transfers. So there is a lot to delve into, to study, to consider as it pertains to the lottery, as it pertains to transfers. And we are having that discussion, and we will be bringing back to you some recommendation in the future and before we make any final decisions. And we are also planning our staffing in accordance with our personnel timelines that we provided to you, some of the staffing that we have planned for the STEM Academy as we continue to grow and move into the high school year, such as our counselor, teacher on special assignment, campus supervisors, and such. As for transportation, we've had some discussion about this in Cabinet, and at this time, don't have a recommendation in regard to transportation. Some of the considerations that we are discussing are the cost, and the total cost can vary anywhere from $200,000 approaching $1 million, all depending on whether we decide to establish qualification criteria based on distance, socioeconomic status, or other factors to address the issues of geographic, demographic representation and such. So again, another topic that is causing us to dig deeper, to study the implications, and one of the other things is the impact on other choice programs as well. Deciding whether we are, what kind of a precedent, if there is a precedent to set, some of the future unknowns. One of the things that I do want to mention is, as a result of the LCAP, something that's written into the LCAP is to develop a survey and to implement a survey district-wide with our parents in respect to choice programs. So we're going to be developing that survey in the spring, administering it in the early fall. And that will also give us some indication as to needs, and certainly one of the things that we're going to be querying parents on is the factor of transportation, whether that has an impact on their decision to move their children to other programs across the district. So a lot of different factors that need further study and consideration also, along with lottery and transfers, and some of those issues actually overlap and intersect with each other. And the final topic that I'd like to address with you is regarding facilities. As we expand our facilities at the STEM Academy and progress with the feasibility study. As you know, the board approved the STEM expansion plan for 2015-16 and the feasibility study. And since then, we have met with the environmental consultant, for a site walk and discussion of needs. And we have also identified the portable needs for next year in regard to the needs that we have as the students move on from the 10th grade to the 11th grade, and also with built into that the need for some science labs. We currently do not have the appropriate science laboratories for any grade level, so we're excited to identify the need for one chemistry lab and a flex science lab to meet those needs. And we've also received a proposal from LPA Architects earlier at the latter part of January, and that study is expected to be completed by October of 2015. However, we may find information that is important in our decision as in terms of the Mount Vernon site being a feasible site early on in the process, so we will see what those results give us and what comes from that feasibility study and conceptual design process. And finally, the long-term considerations, as mentioned by Ms. Carmen Day, we're looking at the possibility of partnering with higher ed institutions, and of course, one of the ideas that we've talked about in the past, and is certainly something that would be an ideal for us, would be to house the program at a university, and so that's something that we are exploring at this time. And that concludes our report.
So I know that there's been a lot of chatter about STEM in the last several weeks. What I'm trying to read between the lines of your presentation is, at this point in time, you are comfortable with the direction that it's growing at the current location?
Yes, we have looked at different possibilities, and we are at this time pending the feasibility study. That is what we are very comfortable with, is continuing to house the STEM Academy, and its at least its short-term growth for the high school at its current location. And again, we'll wait to see what the feasibility study tells us in terms of the long-term.
Right. In terms of the long-term.
Yes.
October seems pretty late to be getting that report from the architect. Is there any way we can move that up a little? You can't hurry an architect. But October is pretty late. It's clear into the next school year, and then it doesn't give us a great amount of planning time. So I'm just wondering if that timeline can be moved up a bit.
Not sure if the timeline can be moved up. That is the proposal that we got from LPA Architects.
Okay.
But they're very conscious of that timeline, and as they progress through their study, we are going to be receiving interim reports from them, and we're, like I mentioned, we may be able to find out important information prior to then regarding the long-term impact and whether that is going to be a feasible location.
I did have a chance to have a good conversation with Sue Johnson this week. Sue, as people might know her as a past regent of the UC system, she was very enthused about the possible idea of bringing the STEM high school onto campus. And she promised me that she would be working to that end, because she saw it as the ultimate goal of the STEM school, to actually have a campus presence.
Absolutely, and that's part of the discussion that we've had with the provost. So that is certainly a long-term consideration.
Absolutely
for
long-term.
us. I think that we also have that possibility at Riverside Community College. So we're trying to provide a formal agreement to have the discussion, and it looks like both of those two higher education sites may be interested.
Good.
So I'm hoping that we end up with an option.
Good, thank you.
Long-term.
Mrs. Lock-Dawson? No? I do. I'm sorry, I don't have anybody who needs to speak, so.
Speak. All right. So I guess the one thing, I'm just going through some of the information you gave us. So tonight we're getting no recommendations. We're just getting an idea of what the schedule is to come up with some solid recommendations, correct? I'm just clarifying.
In regard to the facilities piece, which is what you're showing me, in terms of the long-term plan, correct. In terms of the short-term plan, we are continuing with your approval from the last study session where we're placing portables onto the campus with those the science labs, and to be able to accommodate the 11th graders as well for next year.
So like on the feasibility study conceptual design process timeline, there are a number of task items such as, programming and educational specifications, programming and educational specs, visioning, design, charrette. Is that going to be looking at things like whether we do something different, like, I don't know, having the high school on the campus at UCR? Is that coming in there? I'm just trying to get at where some of those specific things will come out.
Let's invite Dr. Lewis, if you'd come up to the podium, please.
Hello, Dr. Lewis.
Good evening. Yes, the programming phase of the feasibility design is for the conversation to be had from the visioning statements from the ad hoc committee. And so we'll bring folks together to talk about what those visioning statements mean, and then try to dig into it a little more and decide how it relates to the facility at the Hyatt campus or another possible alternative. So we're really going to explore, take it another step from where the ad hoc committee left off.
Okay, so in that, and I'm just being specific here, in that process, you're going to look at some of the questions that Mr. Garcia had here regarding like the lottery system, for example, because this has been one that has been particularly vexing to a lot of people is, I'm just going to use this one because it's an easy example. So the lottery considerations, we don't have any recommendations tonight, but we do have these things that we're going to think about, like the geographic demographic representation. You intend for that to come out like in, October, September of next year, that type of information to come?
No, the feasibility study is really towards looking at what is the function that this school is going to be like.
Okay, I get that.
So it's all facility related. It's
all right,
not.
so when are these answers going to come up then? When are we going to get some resolution and some recommendations?
Our plan is to bring that to you at the next regularly scheduled business board meeting, which is on March 2nd.
Okay, did I miss that somewhere? Did you have?
No,
I don't know that I was...
I was unsure of that too.
Okay, so, and just really quickly, I think, just to let you go in that direction then, I don't know if you want this information now, but, the two of the biggest issues we heard at the last thing were this diversity issue and the perception of elitism, we've heard that, as well as expanding offerings for our high school students. So those are two big things I know that are going to come up, and I would like to see some solid recommendations regarding those. And one of the things is with the geographic and demographic diversity, I personally don't like the idea of imposing quotas or monkeying with our lottery system. However, if there are truly underrepresented groups there, I think we need to do a better job of outreach and education to those groups, and then also offering transportation if that's an issue, finding out why they're not getting there. So that's a big one for me. And then so the transportation is linked to that, I think. So, and then the other thing was the expanding offerings for high school. I hope we come back with some solid recommendations on. The problem is our high school is so small, and what can we do that we can give those kids some opportunities that's special, unique to that.
Absolutely, and I'm hoping that the partnership with Riverside Community College will help with that as well, because they do have some unique offerings that the students may have an opportunity to take.
And I too talked with Sue Johnson, and I did talk to Kim Wilcox too recently. I just, you see people around. So I know they're very much interested in this, and RCC too, I think. And it sounds like maybe Dr. Morales. Okay, thanks. That's all I had.
In our presentation, that is all tentative initial discussions.
Right. Everything,
okay, thank
everything
you.
tentative.
I will stop now and let someone else speak.
Thank you. Mr. Lee.
Mrs. Locke-Dawson addressed some of the issues that I was going to share too. And I realized when I brought this up last board meeting, asked to get some feedback on staff recommendation based on the last study session we had. We got a lot of new information on all the things that you addressed in this program, in this presentation. And again, I realize it's only been 2 weeks, so I obviously allow for a little more grace and latitude to come back and give us some recommendations. But I too would like staff to kind of delve in to all the information that was provided to us at the study session and all the recommendations that was provided us by the committee, and kind of give us their recommendation on what path they suggest for long-term sustainability for the STEM school, keeping it special, keeping it successful. I realize it's one of the gems in our district, and there's a lot of great things happening there. But there's also been some questions that have come up in regards to diversity, in regards to access, and in regards to curriculum. I won't, since Mrs. Luck-Dawson addressed the diversity issue, I won't belabor that point. But in terms of curriculum, when the curriculum introduced, it looked very similar to some of the other high school campuses. So I think that STEM is different, and I think that the curriculum should be different. But then again, I'm not an educator, so I'd like to hear from those that have the expertise in that to find out what is best for STEM and what is best for those students that want to pursue that calling. And I think that was my main. And also, what was the timeline? I think it's really exciting, the opportunity to work with UCR and work with RCC. And I think it's great now that UCR has a medical school, but that took a really, really long time and a lot of people to make that happen. And I realize this is not as big as putting a med school together, but anytime you work with a public institution as big as UCR, things can take a really long time. And if, God forbid, Chancellor Wilcox leaves next year or the year after that, then we start over again. So I just want to make sure that we're talking on all levels, and it sounds like you're doing that, to find out what the plan is for. Is this a 5-year plan? Is this a 10-year plan? Is this a 3-year plan? And same thing with RCC. Seems like those with RCC partnership. I mean, Trustee Miller was here, and I know that I've talked to him privately about RCC, and he's a big advocate. So I know we have some administrators that are on board with that, but if we also have some trustees that can push things along too, I think we should use those avenues. And then also, I don't know if we've had discussions with California Baptist University, but I've talked to some of the School of Engineering Dean Donaldson, and also their College of Allied Health Dean, Dr. Sands, who has a son at the STEM Academy. And I know that they are always interested in partnerships, and they do that all the time. So just don't want to ignore them either. But thanks for the update, and appreciate your follow-through on our request. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Cloud.
Thanks for the update, and I would add, I had my note here to mention CBU as well, because as we've learned in the past, they actually can be quicker in the update, in the change, than can UCR, just because they are a private institution. So I would remember them. They can come up with some very creative ideas as well. I'd like more information. We've had this discussion before, and maybe I can talk to you separately about why AP is kind of losing favor. That really interests me. And I hope that we're looking at, as with core knowledge, you know, I, as a trustee, would love to see that program replicated at other schools, and I know there are other schools that would be interested in doing that. Well, this is a program too. Maybe there are ways that we can, which would kind of change the transportation issue. Maybe we could offer a 5, 6, 7, 8 program in another area, and you know, somehow transfer those students over. I just think we need to be looking at creative ways to increase the opportunities for all of our students. So that, to me, looks like we need to spread it out and not just have it in one part of town. So I'm glad we're looking at all of those issues. I'm glad they're on your radar screen, and I am. And I want to tell the parents and everybody, as you well know, the board and the staff are committed to this program. It is certainly fulfilling many needs, and it is a creative way to meet the needs not only of our students but of our future businesses. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hunt.
Going last is good because I agree with everything my colleagues have said. I hope that, I'm sure I see Dr. Hanson taking notes, I would like to see a response to these questions given to us. I don't want to see a timeline again that says, by the way, that the board gets to make a decision on this in October. We're going to be involved very early on. We're not going to be put in the position we have been in the past where it was a gun to our head. If we didn't vote yes, then the program died. So make sure we understand that, or get someone else than LPA that if they can't work that fast. What other programs, Assistant Superintendent, that we have that are lottery-based?
We have the dual language immersion program at 4 different elementary schools, for example, that students, in order to enroll in that program, need to go through the lottery system. That's the major lottery program that we have across the district. One.
What about our core knowledge?
Core knowledge as well, even though that, however, that is a little different in that you have students there who are homeschool, that's their home school, but we do have transfers that come in, and those students come in through the lottery system.
Okay. How did you get to, let's talk transportation, because I am that school board member, the one that brought it up. So tell me something. I got to agree with you. Wow, $600,000 to $1 million. How many kids are we going to be transporting for that amount? Is everybody going to ride the bus? What's going on here? I know we picked a place way out in the middle of nowhere, but tell me exactly how many kids that accounts for.
Well, it depends if we're going to. That's one of the things that we're studying is which students would we provide transportation for? Are we going to look at distance? Are we going to look at areas? Are we going to look at geographic representation? Are we going to look at the needs of students in terms of targeting unduplicated students? Those are all the different considerations that we're discussing right now, and that we'll bring forth to you on March 2nd.
Okay, good. Yep. I appreciate that. You know, where Indiana and La Sierra is, right, Antonio? Okay, I'm just using, about that area is Alvord, but right above it belongs to us when you cross the ditch past Arizona. There's several hundred homes up there. If they were to drop their kids off at the Ralphs, there's a bus station that without traffic, 12 minutes on the 91 to get to Mount Vernon Street. Now, I haven't seen the 91 without traffic in 40 years. But that means that a parent who's working in Orange County has got to spend and time it takes to drop off a kid, and we hear that even today from folks, that's 30 minutes. Then they've got to get back, to get to their job. So I hope you will, as you know, I think it's very important we consider transportation. And for this specialized school, this is not a high school, it's a specialized school. And I do hope, as we heard my colleagues say, it's going to be different than just what is already there and available, and other than just being a small campus, as Mr. Holmes loves to, tout the wonderful thing about this being a small campus. Small campuses anywhere would be great, but we can't afford that. So I'm concerned about that piece, as you obviously know, and about the timeline, and I look forward to hearing your report in March. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Lock-Dawson. No, go ahead.
Just really briefly, I just wanted to say, I think most of you know I have a student at STEM. I have a daughter who is attending STEM. And I was talking with one of the staff members there the other day, and she was adamant that she just wanted everybody to know that that school is providing such a unique service to a unique niche of kids that just don't fit in anywhere else. I don't necessarily think my kid's in that group. But she was saying that she's worked at other school sites, and that she's seen some of these kids have trouble at other sites, and then at STEM they blossom. Trustee Miller referred to that with his own son. So I do think there is a unique population there that is serving. So I do want to just end with that and make sure we're sort of respecting that, and that we try to address the needs of kids across the district, and I think there is a real need there that's being addressed.
Thank you. Mr. Hunt.
I want to add something that I think it was Mr. Lee said, and I hope you were listening, that you do have people on this board, principally Mrs. Allaby, that do have relationships that are unique, that can help us. But I'm going to bring up something I said before. Don't put all your baskets in at UCR. I'm very experienced in business, that when we had a chancellor at UCR named Orbach, he single-handedly changed the relationship of this city with UCR. He made it a great relationship. He left, and immediately the next chancellor drove that into the side of the mountain, and has taken us since to Wilcox, really, to have any sort of, well, I mean, White was reaching out, and then he left. They can leave awful easily, you know, in higher education, and so please do redouble your efforts with UCR to get Mrs. Johnson to help her all you can, and Chancellor Wilcox. But please open up with RCC as well, and has been mentioned, the great success story that is CBU. How long did it take for them to get a medical school at UCR? I mean, had to get $10 million and all that. Whereas Dr. Ellis decided, let's have a school of nursing at BSN, which is considered now the finest school of nursing in this region. So they can turn, as Mrs. Cloud has pointed, on a dime and can be very helpful to us. And their engineering school is doing quite well. So I hope we will reach out to all of our partners in our boundaries of our district. Thank you.
Thank you, and I want to thank the board because all of these ideas that have come out regarding STEM are valuable discussions. The idea of the diversity of all of our campuses, whether or not we're encouraging our girls to go into science, whether or not we are being fair to people through the lottery system, I think these are all valuable. And the transportation issue is a big one. I understand that totally. So we look forward to it. Thank you very much for the information. Yeah. And I would like to, at this point, take a 10-minute break. We will come back at 8:10. A little more than 10 minutes, I guess.
Yeah, well, if this is the preview.
I just want to say hi again. Hi. How are you?
Good. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm good. I'm going to be a regular face here. I have investment. My daughter's here, so.
Good.
Yeah. And then how is everything? Are your kids all getting acclimated? Now you have a son, or okay, okay. Yeah. And what year is she in? Okay. Yeah. Bonnie's in. She's a junior. It's been a good transition for her. She came from Orange County, and it's kind of like she is. She's doing really well. So I don't know. She's on the Pearl Guard, and she made the varsity squad since June.
Okay, so it's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. She actually moved into the house before I did because we got married in May, and I didn't move in until August. Anyway, so it's been an interesting transition because Color Guard started right away. It started when she was still in high school, I mean, for other schools. Because they didn't get out until the end of June, and King gets out on the middle of June. So, yeah, so she was just going to both schools. But that's been good. We were part of the big boosters group and all that. But it's nice. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt. No, just it's the first time I've ever actually been to school. congratulations. It's a brand new one. It's so easily changed. It's really about just modifying a few words, right? You get the same effect. You get the same effect. Same effect. You get what you want. The same effect. Right? It's Jason Hunter, and it's 202. Changed all the process. So what was the point of all this? You know what I'm saying? You can still get everything you want. And you can still get everything you want. You know what I'm saying? It's just about putting more on the side. Yeah, I think this density is a great capacity community. What I'd like to see, here I am, here I come up with my lobby, is a little bit more on the side of emotional problems address that ADHD, opposition to defiant disorder, that if we don't catch them by 6th, 7th, 8th grade, we've lost them. Oh, jeez. Well, there we go. I just came from the right thing. Those in particular, because we don't catch them, you know what? We're going to end up as taxpayers paying for them later on times 10. You know, and it's not, I realize it's not the school's job to be parents. I understand that. But at the same time, some of those kids do reach that. It's a little bit different than the normal children. So, anyway, I work with lots of special needs groups around here. My son that was special needs. I ended up sending him down to St. Louis. That's unfortunate. Right? And I'd like to see that change because there are a lot of kids who fall into that group. Right? And you guys do that. All in all, I'm actually really impressed to see the turnout. I wish we got this kind of turnout at city council meetings. You know, the community was that interested who went on to say governance or spending it on the board. Yeah, I think it's very good discussion. I like to see them deliberating. I like, you know, the kids are the future. I need them, or else I don't get any Social Security. I need them to be productive. Okay, I need this economy to take off and really. I need these kids to keep their brains running, take us into the next, this century. I guess the latter half of the century. Anyway, I just wanted to come and say hi and meet you. I usually don't come up with all dour but it's a topic that's particularly sensitive to me because of the fight we just had at City Hall. So when I see those things, I say, we want everybody to feel like they're welcome, and that they can give their opinions, right? And that's it. Tim, do you have a business card by any chance?
I do. I have one right over here.
Well, you get your gold star. Could we bring the meeting back to order? Board members? Thank you for coming back
A little far-fetched, but, you know.
promptly. Mr. Hunt? Okay, now we're going to be discussing the Community Advisory Committee, the CAC 2014 Annual Report. Mr. Walker?
Madam President, Dr. Hanson, members of the board, it's my pleasure this evening to be before you this evening to bring up the Community Advisory Committee Annual Report. With me this evening is Mrs. Aurora Sanchez, who is the CAC Chairperson and President, and also Ms. Carrie Antrim, who is the Assistant Director of Pupil Services, SELPA. The CAC, as you have learned in a previous presentation, is required and mandated by Education Code. And within the CAC, the bylaws call for an annual report. This evening you will receive an annual report from the CAC. It will be covering the purpose, the accomplishments, the successes, the challenges, and the goals. And at the conclusion of the presentation, all of us will be available for answering any questions that you may have. I'd like to turn over the mic after introducing other members of the board-appointed CAC. If you could please stand and be recognized. And thank you for your contributions. And with that, I'll turn over the mic to Mrs. Sanchez.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mrs. Alavi, Superintendent, and the board members. As he mentioned, the CAC is a group of parents formed by educators, parents, and community members, and we are here to advise our USD about the needs of the special needs children. What it pertains to special education, and this year we had 5 new members, and I'm excited to say this because previously we didn't have a quorum, and since the bylaws were not updated, we were not functioning since 1980. And this was a big deal. Yes, it was. I myself didn't know about it a year ago, so we're excited about that. We have 6 out of 9 of our scheduled meetings, and there are presentations that we have for our parents. 45% of our attendees are Spanish speakers. We have a range from 22 to 40 people attending. And it varies depending on the subject that we talked about. We also have translating services that the SELPA has provided. In these presentations, we have organizations from our community to come and help our parents, advise them to deal with special education and also services that the community may have. We collaborate with the school district, the SELPA, so it's both. They give their part, we give our part, and then we meet the parents in the middle. I want to thank both of you, Mr. Hunt and Superintendent, for coming to our presentations and just making yourself available to our parents. Some challenges and goals that we have. We are still struggling to get more members and more attendings to our meetings. There are about 4,000 families or parents, children with disability, and we're only having 40. So it's probably 1%. And I know that our population ranges with disabilities, so it's hard to get everybody and get their needs met. But we're not giving up. We want to reach these members. In order to facilitate more, let me go back a minute. This past year we had many challenges, and we were able to update and revise our bylaws, hence the quorum. We activated a variety of outreach strategies through social media, reach through PTA consoles, and YouTube video links with various community groups. And we have provided relevant information in our presentations to our special needs families. Topics ranging from IEP rights, 504 rights, and new IEP forms from our USD. We were able to provide the SELPA was able to provide babysitting services for our families because oftentimes our parents can't make it or they feel that they can't bring their children because they make too much noise. So that was met, and we're thankful for that. In the process, we want to recognize Nathaniel Johnson. She's our SELPA liaison. She's not here tonight, but she's been with us, going back and forth. through the process, so I'm thankful for that. The challenge we have is that we're struggling to meet our community. We don't have any funds to do our presentations and to do more outreach. And that's kind of hard because that's what we face. So in reaching other groups and organizations, we have to make sure that they come and they provide where are their dispense. You know, if they want to bring the papers and the materials in, that's what we get, and whatever the SEPA can provide. We have an upcoming award ceremony in May, which we'd love to do more, but we only have probably $100 to do this type of event. So these are challenges that we face. We're trying to reach also community members that represent the whole spectrum of disabilities, not just the parents that we have right now. And not only the different disabilities, but also geographically wise to represent the whole district. We are planning for next year to do a resource fair. And in this resource fair, the goal is to have the special needs community, you know, what the school district can offer, and how the community organizations throughout the area can meet the needs and bridge the gap for our members. As you know, many of our children with disability have a lot of medical issues. So, you know, it crosses the line between like how much the school can do, how much is from the community, and oftentimes they're just left out there. So we want to make sure that all this is met and everybody's meeting what they're supposed to in their expectations as well. We would like to continue to strengthen our relationships and communication with the school board and our community. And that's all.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question. How are you getting the word out now to your parents? I mean, what ways?
We are actually going through a phone service that we have established, and we also have pamphlets that we give up to our families 2 weeks prior. The only problem is that not everybody looks through their backpacks, so it's kind of limited.
Right.
Or if they do, it's only, you know, a week. For them, it's hard for them to plan to attend to them.
What would be the best way to reach these parents?
I think to post it in every school, in their PTA or whatever form, to recognize us. Because up to a few months ago, we didn't know who we were or what we were about.
Right.
So that is really hard in reaching all these parents.
Have you had occasion to talk to Sandy Page, who's...
Yes,
okay.
I went into their meeting and I reached out to the PTA members. But they also mentioned that they wanted to have pamphlets ahead of time so they know where to meet and what the topics are about. However, when I spoke to myself, a liaison, she told me that the phone would probably be the more effective way to do it. But I think many of our parents are old school and they want to check in their children's backpack just to see what's in there.
Yeah.
You know, to reach our community is kind of hard.
Right.
Everybody has different challenges, but you know, we still want to make sure that we're reaching and trying to do this for our parents.
Sure. I think that's a good idea to try to use both ways. Mr. Hunt, you had a question?
Thank you, Ms. Alvey. You really kind of covered. I wonder if the Communications Committee couldn't look at helping these parents. As I mentioned just a while back anecdotally, but my neighbor up the street just got her doctorate from Loma Linda University, and she's Hispanic, and she her thesis and focus was on communications with predominantly Hispanic communities in schools. And it was interesting the things that she found out, but really that just the sending home in bilingual language of the message to every parent is something, particularly Latinos seem to pay more attention to that than they will with calls. And of course, many of them don't have access to internets anyhow. So I hope that we can do everything we can in providing them what they need. And
you know,
thank you for your service.
If I may, one observation. The phones that we have on site are mostly home numbers. And many of our parents have therapies and different activities to go into. So it's hard for them to always check their home message. But it's not as effective, I think. Since we're in the era of technology, I think it would be good to post it on our website or, I don't know what would be the most effective way, but I think that's what we're moving towards.
I don't know why we couldn't do that. Yes, Mrs. Luck. Oh, it is? Okay. Okay, well, that's good to know. Yes, do you want to come forward?
The flyers, hi, I'm Sarah Dement. There are flyers that go home to parents. I am a mom of a special needs student who is in general ed. So generally, I get one mailed to me, which is really nice because it comes like 3 weeks ahead of time, but that is not the case for everybody. And with 4,000 students, I don't know that we can afford to physically send the invitation to everyone, but there is a clear issue that we are facing with this because we have obviously various representatives that come to our meeting, and a lot of them, their students are in special day classes, and they never get the paperwork because it's this teacher. It's not that it's not distributed to the schools, but whether it actually gets in the backpack, whether it actually gets home from the backpack, you know, it really seems to be the issue. So I think that we have a lot of great things like set up in place to try to reach out. We have also started a Facebook page. We have started, we have a video that we are trying to get out to all of the principals, all of the teachers really, because, you know, if a teacher were to come, if a parent were to come up to a teacher, we want them to know, look, there is a place that you can come to, at least try to get some information. If we don't have the information for you, we'll do our best to figure it out. But it's just hard to get those invitations, letting them know about this, really, you know, in a place where they're going to see it. Because the truth is, we have multiple parents telling us that they're not getting that information.
They're not getting information.
And that's a sad part.
Mr. Hunt had a good idea. Mrs. Lockdawson, how about if we put that on our agenda for our communications committee?
That would be great.
And talk about ways we could help you with that. Go ahead, Mrs. Lockdawson.
That actually was what I was going to suggest, is I'm the chair of the communications subcommittee, and we're having trouble getting a meeting set up, but we're looking at early March right now. But I wanted to ask you, Ms. Sanchez, do you set your calendar for the year in September?
The whole calendar is posted on the website. It's we have a Facebook page, and we also have the CELPA, and there is a whole calendar and presentations and themes that are going to be presented throughout the year. So when we plan the calendar, it's going to be probably this June for the following next year. That way it's already set.
I think it's, too, going to be just a matter of, like you said, you really are honestly just getting up and running really in a way that you weren't before. So I think as your program builds steam, it's going to start bringing people in through word of mouth. But we'll help you with the committee for sure.
Appreciate it. Thank
Thank you. Mr. Lee.
Yeah, I just wanted to commend you and your committee. I think it's funny, and not to take it lightly, that you think we only had 40 people, but for this to start from literally nothing. I remember when you came to our first meeting and brought it to our attention that this hasn't existed for 20, 30 years. So I think that you guys are doing the right thing, and you guys are doing a great job. And just to keep it up. I mean, I remember our first few LCAP meetings. Yeah, we had 100, 200 people at some, but some of them we only had 40, and we were trying to reach 40,000 student or 80,000 parents. If you think, two-parent households. So you guys are doing a great job, and thanks for the work that you put in. I know it's not easy, but advocating for your kids and for those other kids whose parents who can't come to those meetings, I think is a big deal, and thanks for coming and presenting in front of us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Cloud.
I would say thank you. You represented yourself and your constituencies very well. And I would say, too, that's always the problem we run into, is getting the information out. Whatever group we're looking at, getting the information out. And so it's not fair for people to really say, oh, we didn't hear about it because you want to keep the information from us. Well, that's not really true. It's just that which avenues are we going to use to get the information out? So we'll explore that together. But my question for you is, are you connected? Maybe Mr. Martin would know better than you, but how is, and I don't know the groups that Kathy Garrett and those guys are all involved in and raising funds. Is that any way connected to this group, or should they be connected? Because those are pretty active parents who of special needs students. And
yes, actually, I did introduce Mrs. Sanchez to the Boosters Club that you're referring to, and they have had communications, and they will be collaborating. We'll continue to have communication in that regard.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. That's good. It's nice to get the communities together working in the same direction. So thank you. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Mr. Hunt.
Just lastly, Dr. Hanson, to the extent the law allows, I know we give our students letters and Lettermans and all sorts of things. To the extent the law allows, can we make sure these folks have a little more than $100 for recognitions they want to give to the young people? And we have our own shop that can build things and all that. So to the extent the law allows, let's make sure these young people are recognized and have their moment in the light. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your money.
It's actually for all the speech therapists, teachers, and whoever is involved that is making a difference in our children, which is happening in May.
Very special. That's a good thing. Thank you. Anything else you wanted to add to?
No, thank you very much for your time and attention.
All right,
and,
thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sanchez, and the members of the CAC for coming this evening.
Absolutely.
presenting
Thanks
the
for your
report.
dedication. We really appreciate it. All right, we are ready for our action agenda at this point. We're going to addressing item H1, business and non-instructional operations, energy and water conservation, and associated revisions to the 2015-16 district calendar. Dr. Lewis.
Mrs. Alavi, Dr. Hanson, members of the board, I would like to bring to you a recommendation for an adjustment to policy 3511 that deals with energy and water conservation. Along with that is a recommendation to make adjustments to the calendar that's just associated with the changes that we're recommending to you. Basically, if you look at page 83, 84, and 85, that's the item in your packet. The revisions we're recommending to you reflects the blackout periods. We're finding that the blackout period that's the last full week in July is not working well for conducting the district's business, critical business that happens during the summertime, like hiring staff, critical business operations and maintenance activities that are just the opportune time during the summer to do that. So our recommendation is in paragraph 6, and it basically says that all school facilities will remain closed, but all non-school facilities, departments, and divisions will be allowed to work during that time. There's a minimum impact to utilities consumption, and that will have the district office operating with air conditioning, and that's about $2,000 total. But overall, we think this is a benefit to the district operations, being open to the public, and so if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Mr. Hunt.
I just would have a motion to approve. It's a good idea, and I appreciate the staff taking on, sort of unwinding some of these austerity things that we did for proper reasons during those tough times. But this is helps the staff, particularly HR, run more smoothly during a critical time.
Thank you. Mrs. Cloud?
I second the motion and just say too, as we proceed, we find out how to correct the process as we move along, and we have found that is an important week for many employees. So,
Did you
I
want to make
second
a
the motion.
Thank you. Did you want to make a comment? Okay, then I will go ahead and ask everyone to now vote. Okay, that does pass. Thank you, Dr. Lewis. I appreciate it. Okay, we've now reached board member comments. Why don't I go and start with Mrs. Cloud?
Well, I have a couple, and I just wanted to tell Mrs. Alavi, as we were at History Day and got a brief chance to walk through, gosh, those are some amazing projects and papers out there. I have to say, it is impressive. One of the perennial winners is Rachel Preby, and I saw her grandmother the other day, and I said, because the title of her project was The Irrepressible Man, A Leader's Legacy, because leadership and legacy was the theme. So I kept that in my mind because I was curious, because it didn't say who the irrepressible man is. You know who it is? It's William Seward, who was Secretary of State during Lincoln's cabinet. He was injured in the he was one of the ones injured in the attacks on Lincoln and all, and he was the Seward's Folly. So I guess he was irrepressible. That's always a fun thing to do. I wanted to mention too, as you well know, Common Core has been an issue for me. But there is a spectrum, not only of support, but of concern about Common Core. And one of the biggest concerns coming up for a number of reasons is the testing. And it's hitting both sides of the spectrum. If you look at conservatives, liberals, whatever your spectrum is, there are concerns there about the testing. So it's something that we should keep in mind and not be caught off guard about, because although I'm not an alarmist, and I wouldn't present myself as some people do, there are legitimate concerns. So we need to be paying attention. Last but not least, I was at the City Council meeting. I happened to be there to support Long Night of Arts and Innovation, which is coming, I believe, in October. It was a very interesting City Council meeting. They eventually did pass the money needed to host the program, and I just want to say that we do provide in-kind the money and materials, because we provide students who man some of the stations. We provide, musicians and dancers and all the spectrum of people who perform. And I just want to make that clear that we're not just takers, we are givers. And so it benefits the rest of the community, the whole community. And so I just wanted to make sure that we're all aware that we're participators with our resources. The best ones we have is our students. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lee.
Two quick things. One, from staff, I'd like to get an update on where we are for library books for DLI. I know that's been an ongoing issue. I know we're working on it, but I'd just like to kind of hear about where we are and the progress that we've made. And then two, just reflecting on what Woody had mentioned, and also, I'm not sure his name, but the gentleman that spoke regarding the Black History Parade. Something hit me that he said is that Black history is our history. And I think it's interesting that we define it as Black history when all history, whether it's Black history or Latino history or Asian history, I mean, it's all part of our history, and Riverside has such diversity. We have a little bit of all of that. So I'd kind of like to take Woody's recommendation and figure out how next year we can really celebrate the history that we have. And we've had a unique opportunity this year with the book coming out and the desegregation of our schools, but I think it's a lot bigger than that, and Woody shared a little bit of that with all the innovations that African Americans have brought to this country and to our everyday use. So I would like to look into that, whether it's an ad hoc committee or maybe just something that's shared at principal meetings, to figure out how we can kind of all collaborate together and do it right and celebrate maybe what unique things have been brought by local people of African American descent, and maybe we can do the same thing with some of our other cultures and to celebrate Riverside history and the diversity of it. So that's really all I had today.
Good ideas. Mr. Hunt.
Well, first of all, I need to tell Woody that most of my childhood chores apparently arrived from the ingenuity of black people. So I didn't know that. I'd like to meet the guy that invented the lawnmower. But a couple things. It was a good meeting tonight, and thank you. It was well organized, and I was touched by Mr. Schwartz, who brought us the Phyllis Schlafly report, because, as I said to Mrs. Lockdawson, I said, see, at any age, people get it, and Riversiders have always got it, that the quality of your education system is the quality of your community, and that's the great burden we accept and that we want to carry. And I was glad that he was down here. I think Mrs. Cloud's comments are right. There are people that are greatly concerned. Now, our state has decided to take on Common Core, and I don't know how I realize that Arizona and others have backed out, and South Carolina and all. But I would ask Dr. Hanson, if your chief academic officer would, just some of these things that are said in other areas, are we excluding Thomas Jefferson and James Monroe from the new history text? Are we doing some of these things? Because I would hate to find out that we were, being a big fan of Jefferson and all. So I'd just like to know, I don't know if Common Core from New York to California is the same, or if we have some of our own ideas, or are we blacking out some of those folks. But I think in respect to Mr. Schwartz for coming down, he deserves an answer about that, and maybe it's one that we should just watch out for. I went to a dinner the other night at the invitation of Notre Dame's, they call him the president, he's like the superintendent, and we have an upcoming cup of coffee I want to just make public with Dr. Hanson and myself. I'm going to ask Notre Dame alumnus Mrs. Locke Dawson to join us. Growing up, Kathy, you remember it was quite, Notre Dame was quite prominent in this area. Of course, we've doubled the size of Riverside. But I think, and what I saw that night was they have the same goals and aspirations, which is an educated Riverside. And though they're in private, we should have relationships with them and other educational institutions, Alvord as well, because we're all in the business together, and that's a better community. That's a well-educated youth that are our replacement parts, and I'm looking forward to that. You were talking about parents, how you were happy about clipping the ribbon the other day. I think you and Ms. Lockdar. It's coming up, isn't it?
Coming up on the
Coming
5th.
up, thank you. And just on other schools, I had an opportunity to have lunch with the principal at Sherman the other day. They have 84 seniors last year. Did you know that 80% of their kids were accepted to college at Sherman? But about a third, so 80% of 80 would be about, 62, 63 kids. Only a third actually end up going because, for a lot of reasons, but one of the principal things is when they go home, they go back to the reservation, there isn't that culture of college going. And then something he brought up that I went home and talked to my wife about, and I remember this now. When Taylor got accepted to U of A, all of a sudden we were inundated with file for your dorm and do this and all these and send this deposit, right, Mrs. Lockdawson? You getting that now? And they just don't know how to do it. And I thought, how important is that parental part that we're adding to help them? That if 2/3 of those, and these are kids the government is throwing money at them to go wherever they can get into, and they don't go because there isn't that college going. And I know it's not our community, it's a community that's all over the United States, but it is our community. And so I'm so proud that we're doing that, and I just wanted to underline how important that is. Also, how important things are when we get that public information officer we've talked about. What he or she needs to have as part of their duties is communication with the different governments. Councilmember Davis's comments the other night about the school district not doing their part on the long nights of arts and innovation was misplaced, and he was ill-informed or uninformed. And I went to see him the next day to try to inform him. The only thing you have to do in this state is you have to go send your kids to school. So everybody's involved. Legally, you have to send your child to school. So you can ignore a lot of things here, but you can't ignore education. So I think a lot of myths come out of it, and we've been sharing letters with the same council member today about the parking and everything and all that. So we do need to just have a fact squad, whatever, just to let people know, no, we can do that, but we can't do that, and those sort of things. And I think it underscored his comments, just we don't need ill-informed leaders out there about the school districts. And lastly, I wanted to say we've talked last meeting about warehousing jobs, and I was at the city council the other night on a different reason, and they talked about warehousing jobs and sort of put them down. My nephew Chris My nephew Chris should have graduated from the Rim of World in 2008. Instead, he dropped out, whatever. He did get his GED a little while later, where he was the guest of the County of San Bernardino Sheriff's Department for about 8 months for being involved in drugs. And along with that GED, he got a little bit of realism with the world, what it looks like, and that he needed to apply himself, and his family reminded him of that as well. And, he went and took a $15 an hour job, God bless him, at OHL, their distributor, warehouse logistics distributor over in the Redlands area. Chris applied himself, he sacrificed, including missing his own brother's wedding. He said, well, Uncle Tom was his second wedding, so what the heck. But they wanted him to work that day and otherwise. And Chris, 2 weeks ago, was brought on in a salaried job, overseeing folks. He'd been there again 18 months, at $62,000 a year. There are good jobs in logistics. We have no choice. They're coming. We're part of the port. Let's find a way to get on top of it and our kids be part of the employment that can be good employment. He has benefits too, by the way. And lastly, I want to thank Mr. Hunter for coming tonight. Mr. Hunter is an advocate for good governance, as we all are, for transparency. I want to look into some of the things that he talked about. I don't like, and none of us like, the fact that someone would come up and complain about teacher so-and-so, and that would be and that's the reason we sort of have that rule. I think part of the reason we have that rule is because of the great history of staff and programs that we have in this district, that if you have a problem with, I know personally, with teacher so-and-so, you go visit with the principal, and if you can't, or whoever, and if you can't get satisfied there, then they invite you to meet with someone like our chief academic officer or the assistant superintendent, and finally to the superintendent. And 99 times out of 10, it's solved, and those things are done. But if the law says we have to be available to that, I think we need to make ourselves sure that we are. I didn't understand that if someone took a card and wanted to speak in open session, they couldn't speak on other items. I'm not for that, because, for instance, tonight, if Mr. Hunt, I'm just going to pick up.
Wait a minute.
Is that not correct?
No, that's not correct.
Okay,
they can
good.
speak to every single agenda item.
We can speak to every single agenda item.
You just
You're
have to
limited-
fill out every card.
You're just limited to
You
3 minutes. You have to fill out a card.
3 minutes.
See, we solved it, Justin. So, yes, well-informed board member. So, I'm happy to see we're on the right side, and maybe the city council will catch up with us soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Lockdoss.
That is such a hard act to follow, Tom. I don't know. Okay, here's the thing I'm going to say about the logistics thing. I'm just going to say, I don't want my kids to go work for logistics. I want them to run the companies that employ everybody. So that's what I want our RUSD students to do. I want them to become captains of industry and run those companies that are serving the ports. So anyway, I digress. Just a couple things. One is I was thrilled with the Cal State San Bernardino ceremony tonight. That is so exciting. I am just so happy. That's been a dream of mine since I first ran for office, to have more of those kinds of agreements. I think it's taking our region in the right direction. It's just terrific. I want to thank, I don't know whose idea it was, Mrs. Allaby or Dr. Hanson, to have Woody come in. That was...
I think it was Mr. Hunt's idea.
Was it your idea? Whoever brought Woody in?
I just got in line before you did.
She is just such a delight, and I love hearing from her, and she's always so insightful, and she always has such a neat way of presenting information, so thank you, and it was a great way to kick off February. And I want to follow up on her call that she suggested maybe having an ad hoc committee to celebrate Black History Month, so it's not just a series of little events, but that perhaps it's a more comprehensive program. And I'm pretty sure that's going to be under the purview of the Communications Committee.
That's what I was about to say.
Which I am on that, so I think. And following that, I just want to say there have been a number of items that have come up in our board meetings that the Communications Committee is supposed to take up, and I hope somebody besides me is keeping track of those, because I hope either going back through things, I don't know if that's Mrs. Paul or I have some, but I know there were some others, so I don't want anything to slip through the cracks. And finally, on the pay PAMS issue, is that mom still here? No, she's not here. I just wanted to let you all know, you do pay that service fee. It's $1.95 if you use the computer to pay but you don't have to use pay PAMS. You can go in and write a check still. So there are options for people that don't want to do it. The pay PAMS, and I see Mr. Fine's nodding his head. I think that $1.95 is of service to pay PAMS because they do all the administration. But you are still welcome to walk in and pay it, or send in your check to Nutrition Services. So you're not beholden to the $1.95. Thank you, Mr. Fine, for that. That's all I want to say, and I just want to thank the board for being wonderful, and staff for supporting us too. You're all terrific, so thank you.
Mrs. Cloud, did you want to add something?
I forgot something very important that the board needs to know, and I forgot to mention Mrs. Lockdawson supported the Knights of Arts and Innovation as well to the City Council. But Mr. Hunt and I waited to see if you remembered to say something, went to the RCSBA dinner the other night, and I think Mr. Hunt picked up several governing to achieve research from CSBA for all of us. But a couple really important items are March 10th, there will be a legislative workshop, and probably at La Sierra High School. And Imran Farouk, Senator Roth, Assemblyman Medina, I think Cindy Roth will be there. There's a lot of very good information available on the workforce development and the legislative issues, and so we should all try to attend. The other really important thing is RUSD is hosting the RCSB, the Riverside County School Boards Association dinner in April. Here's a flyer. John Husing will be the guest speaker, and we're quite involved in it since we're hosting it. So I hope that administrators and board members can attend, and if you would just give that to Dr.
Good,
Hanson.
we'll definitely
I forgot
get that
to
on
say
our-
that. I'm
on
so
our
sorry.
list. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everybody. I just want to quickly say that the Parent Day that Dr. Hanson referenced at Ramona was fantastic. We had a chance to hear Raquel Martinez, I believe. Is that? No, Marquez. Marquez, right? Marquez. She is the only Latina judge in the Inland Empire, both in Riverside and San Bernardino County. She was fabulous. We should have her speaking to all of our high schools. I would like to have the board write a letter thanking her and encouraging her to be available to come back again. So if you don't mind, I'll make sure that happens. And then also, I would also like to know if we would like to write a letter to Robert Alvarez, who is the middle school social studies teacher of the year. Is it? Well, let's make sure that we extend our written thanks to him as well. And the final thing is a question to staff to get back to me on. I was approached by someone in the community, and Mrs. Lockdawson was with me, who told me that information at high schools regarding health and reproductive rights and information of giving addresses where they can find these reproductive centers are not allowed by RUSD. And I would like to know if we do in fact prohibit that kind of information from being on our high school campuses. So if someone could get back to me and let me know if there's any such thing, I would really appreciate it. I will at this point adjourn the meeting in honor of Charlotte Haskell Huber, who passed away 1 year ago today on January 26, 2014. Charlotte was an elementary school teacher in the Anaheim Unified School District and the Riverside Unified School District for a number of years before retiring. So I will adjourn in her name. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Good meeting.
Good.